I mean, I was working 100-hour weeks, and that's not sustainable. But the worst part really is, I think I could have continued the hours, but I wasn't making any progress time-wise. It was just like, all the tasks that I was doing, it wasn't progressing anything forward. I wasn't making the clients happy. I wasn't pulling myself out of any kind of problems. It's just, I was just spinning wheels, and so I just let it all go. And just in October, I just decided, okay, I'm done.
You decided you were done with the business. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a lot of money that I could just sit on for a little while, and I was thinking, okay, maybe I could get another job, or maybe I could just live off this cash. And I got another job pretty quickly, which was good.
Yeah, it's frustrating if you don't see any results from if you're putting a lot of work into something and you don't see any results from it. It's frustrating, especially if you love what you're doing.
Yeah.
And what was it? What you were doing?
Marketing. I've been doing it for 3.5 years.
Okay, when people say marketing, I don't know what that means.
Well, your business allies, what we did was a lot of social media, mostly social media campaigns and strategy, helping people to manage their paid campaigns and content on social media and monetize that way. We organized events. We did a lot of graphic design, video, media. I mean, I did everything an agency could do except for ad buying at billboards. Just about everything.
So you said the marketing and the design and social media, and so that a lot of people are building their business up around or they have been building their business up around social media.
Right.
So people rely on the social media sites to stay, because if they go, then where did all that platform that people have built something on?
Kind of in the social media world, kind of in the marketing world, they call social media borrowed content, a borrowed audience. And so the ultimate goal would be to drive that audience from social media onto an owned audience, like your owned audience being like your website, your email list, things that you could control, a site that's not going to just go down at any moment. So yeah, you have a valid point there. It's like people put a lot of money and a lot of effort into things like Facebook, and Facebook's great for right now for business, but yeah, ultimately they do need to drive that traffic onto their website and platforms that they own.
Yeah, Facebook is funny because people, like my whole family, they don't even talk about anything else on the internet besides, in Spanish they say face. They don't even say book. They say, yo estaba en el face. Estamos en el face y vi todo eso. And, but yeah, so it's stable for right now.
Very stable.
Yeah. And, but I personally wouldn't bank on it, so to speak. Like, I wouldn't make that my only place where people can get a hold of me. And
oh, yeah. I mean, that doesn't make any sense for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest instability is that Facebook is going to take itself down. Facebook is reinventing itself right now, and I don't think that's ultimately what it wants to be.
Yeah, it's because Facebook wants the next Facebook to be Facebook. Yeah.
And it's gonna recognize that, people...
And all the stock owners want Facebook to be the next Facebook.
Right. Yeah. And I don't see anything wrong with that, but I think it's good to change with the times.
Yeah, so I was just at the farmer's market, and the person at the farmer's market was talking about that people don't go to their website; they just go to their Facebook page. And when people say change with the times, people got to change with the times. So, too often people assume, it seems, that changing with the times is some organic thing that happens, and it's not like some company or corporation is engineering what the next change with the times is going to be. You know what I mean?
There's a little bit of both. I mean, of course, the corporations of America have a huge influence on what our lifestyle is going to be. I mean, the smartphone radically changed our lifestyles. I mean, that's one engineering of our lifestyle that, that was completely manufactured.
Right, and that happened virtually overnight. Like,
with
an iPhone?
Oh, goodness. I was just reading about all these multi-billion-dollar pager companies that merged the year before. this smartphone was released onto the market, and the 3 competitive smartphones were released on the market, and all these billion-dollar pager companies that collapsed virtually within the same year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens.
You still have a pager?
I do.
You have a pager?
I do. I do, but I used to like to use them for photo shoots.
Mm-hmm.
I used to like to do them when the doctor was dressing up, and then he would like glance down at his pager. I think it's time to probably throw it away. That picture's not even relevant anymore.
Yeah, the pager picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still see doctors with pagers on them. You know, I'm like, you really use that thing? They're like, oh yeah. It's like, oh, I guess it must have some sort of reliability factor that cell phones and other forms of communication don't have. You know, you can get the double-digit code that says "come here now" or "canceled" or something like, or "emergency."
I definitely think there's something to be said for having the stripped down communication without the distractions, just to be able to just go to sleep and just listen for that one sound and not be distracted by push notifications from 400 different apps and phone calls and all these different things. Just it serves one purpose: to contact me in an emergency.
Yeah, that's my cell phone right there.
You stripped it down. Did you go back from smartphone land?
No, I have a smartphone, but I don't use anything. I have my applications on there. It's like I don't have any applications. I use texting and I call, and I look at a map, and that's about it.
Wow.
You know, and I don't really like looking at my phone. I've been thinking about getting a bigger phone, like a phablet. Because I would be down with a phablet. Like, I don't care if it looks stupid, like me holding this big old thing in my head. But I could, like, look at that and read articles on it maybe and things like that, you know. But in general, believe it or not, I'm, like, really, like, shying away from the internet. Like I'm cutting it off, and not necessarily in a way that's painful or anything. I just got tired of it. Like, the whole thing, the whole thing... articles and social media and websites, and the main thing that I do on the internet right now is download audio to listen to on my MP3 player. Yes, I still have an MP3 player. You know, because I don't use, like I said, my phone, I don't keep music on there. I keep music in my MP3 player, which is this tiny gadget. It's like this big. It's like the size of 2 quarters. Wow. You know. And I just keep my music in there.
I remember having one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, because, you know, if I'm on my phone, I don't want any interruptions. If, you know, I don't know. Like, and then I notice my phone works better if I have the less stuff I have on it.
That's definitely true. My phone crashes sometimes. I do a lot with it. That's my primary source for making money right now. It's like, I depend on it a lot. We're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. It's weird. I've watched this over the years, kind of trending in opposite directions with a lot of things. You know, you when you're talking about backing away from the internet, I'm just like, what?
Yeah, because I mean, it's been such a big part of my life. You know, as far as maps and socializing and information gathering and video watching and movie watching and porn. No, I'm just kidding.
No, he's not.
And I'm not actually. But as a lover, no, and you know, that just it's been such a big part of my life that I just got tired of it. You know, and I got tired of doing things like that, like sitting at a screen, or even if it's a small screen, just looking at a small screen, or you know. So yeah, I'm like, enough. You've had enough of my time. All right, the politics and the social media and everything. It's like,
I think it's like a fundamental difference in mindset. It's like, to me, that the internet, the screen, it's not taking from me, it's giving to me. It's like, now I'm living in this time where, like, everything I could ever want to do, anything I could ever want to know, anyone I could ever want to meet, it's just like right there. It's just so accessible now, and it's incredibly empowering. I don't feel like it's draining. I feel
in
like
theory. In theory, it's empowering.
I don't know.
Like, for example, it gives you that empowering feeling, right? Right. And but I read a quote recently, and it said something like, stop posting or looking on the internet or something. It said stop looking at the life that you want to live and start living the life that you want to. Stop being on like the internet or whatever it said, thinking about the life that you want to live and live the life that you want to live. Man, I just totally mangled that quote. But
I think people can piece it together, but
yeah.
I get the essence of what they're saying, and I do think I'm guilty of that to an extent because I am in a recovery phase in my life, but to a large extent, I'm living better than I ever have. I mean, I live right by a park, and you can just walk outside and just enjoy the breeze and the sunlight and look up at the sky. I mean, it's a very relaxing, nice life that I have right now, but at the same time, I do still feel empowered. I do still feel
So you know when I met you, you were like really, I don't know what phase you were in, but you were like really all about it. And I was like, man, this person's like all about this thing that they're doing, and you're enthusiastic and excited and inspiring, you know. And you're like, oh yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that, and you had all these really good ideas, you know. And I thought they were good ideas, and I'm sure you thought they were good ideas. Otherwise, you wouldn't have pursued them. But I saw problems with them in the sense that maybe if it was in a different city, it would work easier, or meaning that there would be different people, a different selection of people. But I was here, and I was like, yeah, I'm somebody who's interested in doing this. I don't know if I can, you know, do something like this right now. But I don't know if there's enough people for her to select from. I was thinking that would be like me and can go through with it and do something like some marketing strategy or something. You know, because I always need marketing, you know, but I have to have something to market first.
Right. You have to be balancing the creation and then the push, and then the creation and then the push. And so it's like a cyclical thing. And so you have like people that are so busy pushing, they're not creating enough, and they're just all talk. And that's the city. And then you have people like you, and maybe you're creating so much and you're not maybe pushing it so much, and that you maybe not be reaching as many people who might be interested in what you're doing. And so that's what I see with artists all the time, is they don't know how to complete the cycle.
Yeah, artists tend to be retarded when it comes to applying their artistic key into the machine to get it started, to get it in there, like to get it going. Into the money, the monetizing, and the marketing machine, because artists tend to not think that way. You know, there's the other type of artist, and this kind of artist flourishes, like Kanye West, who I don't think is musically, I'm not crazy about his music, you know, but he's like a marketing genius,
right?
If you want to put it that way, and that's an artistic type of thing. But that's the only type of artistic thing that will flourish. You know, if it's not strictly business or you know, market based financially, or you're selling some sort of product, you know. Artists, I know I'm very retarded when it comes to marketing, you know, and I always try to work on that. And the problem is, I don't know if other artists are like me, but the problem is that I just don't give a shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I always thought, and my impression was that you always seemed like you didn't really like it. Like you didn't really like the idea of telling people what they should listen to, and telling people what you're doing, and people should just do what they're doing.
Yeah, I hate doing that. You know, I really do not like going around going, hey man, come to my show, man. Check out my show, you know. And I have to work really hard to find myself valuable in that way. You know, because I already find myself valuable. And that's a problem. Like, our society is kind of built on you feeling inferior and you needing to get something out of it. You know, besides food and love and friendship and shelter and water and, you know, entertainment or that kind of thing. You know, our society can't, if that's all you wanted, it would just break down.
Yeah. Like,
you need a phone. You need a phone, man. You need to listen to my CD. You need the new CD. That was a CD from 6 months ago. You know, you need the new car. You need the 2015 car. You know, where you ever think about that? I was thinking about that the other day, where our society is built on feeling inferior, like people having an inferiority complex.
I can kind of see how you can have that perspective, but I think our society is more so built upon being the best that you can be, and being the best is sometimes about having the best and looking the best and wanting the best. And so I don't know if it's maybe, I think it might be the opposite of inferiority. I think it might be a God complex. It might be, I deserve to drive the newest car. I deserve to have the iPhone. I deserve to drink the best coffee there is, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I if you said that, you could say that because you're an attractive young female, you know, but if you were like an Albanian guy with an accent and you were wearing a Rolex.
You don't think there's Albanians that don't think they're just like the god?
No, but I'm saying if you said that like that, just watch picture. I'll try to put it to you. The thing is, for this country, it's about being the best. The best watch, the best coffee, the best everything for me.
That's pretty good.
You see? It just changes the meaning of it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking.
I'm sticking by it.
No, that's cool.
That was a pretty good accent. I'm sticking with it. I just pictured the guy perfectly. He's got like one of those black men fades.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and a silver chain.
He's the best.
Yeah.
The best look, my friend, the best gold, the best everything, best cologne, best perfume for you.
Yeah.
Best car, look, BMW. Best. So yeah. So what did you take away from your business? Can we say your business failed? Can you say you failed in your business?
We can say my business failed, most definitely.
Yeah.
My business failed because I'm a micromanager and I like to build teams and overmanage them. So the first thing I had to learn was how to delegate and how to trust people. Mm-hmm. And I had to build a family and not find people that I can afford. I needed to find the right people for the right job at the right time. Mm-hmm. So when my business was at its most profitable, that was when I was spending the highest, and that's when I should have been investing in my team. And that was the number one lesson that I took away from that, is that a business is nothing without good people. Mm-hmm. And then I really damaged a lot of relationships because I focused on the business primarily, and I didn't invest enough into my personal relationships. So when the business did fail, I didn't have friends I could just, whenever I had all this free time, and now I do. I work 20 hours a week now, you know, and now I have all this free time. I didn't have friends I could just call up and just say, hey, let's get a cup of coffee, you know. I just need time. I just need to reset and everything. And I found there was a lot of people now that they don't care anymore. Because, hey, you were just doing your thing and you were so focused, and we respect that, but we don't want anything to do with you anymore. So
what?
Because we're doing our thing, and we're focused on our thing, and we have kids now, and we're married, and or we're in school, or we're in our careers, or for whatever reason, you know, you did your thing, and we're doing our thing, and we don't care if our paths intersect anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought your business, I didn't understand it. Like what I'm telling you, like I mentioned earlier, the marketing, I'm bad at it. I don't fully understand it. It's the basics I understand, like not all the nuances, the basics of what it is, you know, get the word out there and all the different ways that you can do that. But as far as running a business around that, it's like, I'm definitely not the kind of personality type that would do that. You know?
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought that the main problem that you would come across is like, oh, there's not enough clients. But that was the least of my problems. I'd always had more than enough clients. It was being able to deliver to those clients and then knowing the right clients to take on. I said yes to a lot of people in the beginning and took on a lot of work that I should not have. Mm-hmm. And I had the McDonald's problem in the beginning.
What is that? The McDonald's problem?
Where I was charging a low enough price that I was getting everyone, and I didn't want everyone. And I was getting the type of clients that they just cause a lot of headaches and returns and stretching deadlines out and all those things. And so that was another thing I learned is like, okay, you need to either be in the middle of the market or you need to be in the top tier of your market. And it's much better. I got over 683 clients in 3 years. And it's much better if
683 clients?
683 clients. And it would have been much better if I had 9. And I probably could have made the same revenue. Mm-hmm. You know, and if I had 9 and I was at the top tier of my market and I had a very strong team and they could deliver to those 9 clients, you know, I would be Gary Vaynerchuk. I'd be a marketing superstar. You know, I'd have Nabisco.
Who is that, Gary Vaynerchuk?
Gary Vaynerchuk, he is one of the most highly regarded people in the marketing and social media kind of circles. And he's a very visible person. He has a video series. He has a podcast. He has a very good blog. And I like him because he's very candid about things. He cusses in his keynotes. You know, he's just really straightforward, and I very much enjoy him and his writing and everything. He has a few books. His book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, like just flipped my business on its head. It just totally changed the way I was serving my clients after I read that book. It was just very, very good. So, yeah, I mean, just after just kind of seeing what he's done, he's got like probably 30 clients, and he has 300 employees.
Wow.
That can serve those 30 clients because...
Yeah, that's a lot of employees for 30 clients.
Exactly, because he's serving, you know, Forbes 100 businesses. You know, he's serving the top tier businesses and getting them really good results. You
know something I noticed about marketing and internet marketing is I feel like it attracts a lot of personality types that would also try to talk me into going to this pyramid scheme at the Hilton.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a lot of people. There's definitely a lot of people.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh gosh.
Like if it wasn't for social marketing, if it wasn't for social media marketing, they would be trying to get me to go to the Hilton and be like, "Hey, you come under me, man. You come under me right here."
Words cannot express how much I can't stand multi-level marketing.
So you see that too?
Oh,
do you see that?
God.
Yeah.
Every single day, I get invited to join some network marketing company. And it was another problem that I faced as a marketing company because I met with clients all over the city. I drove to freaking Palm Coast. I drove all the way up to Georgia sometimes, to meet with clients.
So like 100 miles.
Hundreds of miles
yeah.
all the time. I've driven as far as Tampa to meet clients before. And I've sent team members to go and meet clients in Tampa and some places like that. And I can't tell you how many times that I figured I vetted a company and I showed up there and it's for some network marketing company. They're trying to recruit me into their company. The worst time I have to tell you, it was the end of 2013. It was November of 2013, and me and 3 of my guys it was like revenue was down. We were not doing good. We took a bunch of jobs we shouldn't have taken. And we got told that we were going to get a job, and we really needed it. And we drove to Ponte Vedra with the last bit of gas that I had. And I just remember us standing us in the parking lot, and I just was talking to my guys. We got all dressed up, and I'm giving them this pep talk and everything. And we walk in there, and we're not even in there for a second. And my guy Raj, he was my web developer at the time, and he goes, "Saura, you're an idiot!" And I was like, "What?" And he just points at the front, and there was a big screen, a big projection screen, and we just walked right back out of there.
Because it was one of those multi-level marketing things?
It was just a multi-level marketing little recruitment thing. And I was like, oh, I can't believe it. And I went through all these different things to try and vet these people. And I didn't want to be one of those agencies that forced all my customers to come to my office, to my inconveniently located office with no parking, I didn't want to be one of those companies, but I eventually had to do that. And I went to co-work, and I eventually had to be that guy because it became so inconvenient. And then after I had a few meetings with a client, then I could go out and meet them. But
so where are you thinking about doing now? Are you even thinking about that right now? Or are you just taking some downtime?
I'm done with my downtime. Right now I started a startup called From Poor to Powerful. You're not on Facebook, so you probably haven't been seeing anything about it.
Well, I saw your website.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I've been doing that, and I've got a lot of different ways to monetize that are kind of in the works. I've been doing a podcast for that. That just started. I've got the blog going. Writing a book, which is almost
okay.
finished.
That's the podcast I heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's going, and then I am going to be starting another marketing agency in December, and I'm hoping to be partnering with with someone else that can complement me, and get that off the ground. Start another agency.
Yeah, you need somebody that's you got to be real careful who you pick.
Most definitely. I would love to have someone that's a complete opposite, someone really introverted and organized and great with money, Barbara Corcoran, she always talks about expanders and containers. An expander is somebody who's like explosive, loud personality, outgoing, sales type leader. And then you have the container, and they keep everything in line and reel it in.
Yeah. I'm I don't know which one of those I am. I have a foot in one of them and an arm in the other, and I have a foot in the other one and then an arm in the other one. It's like
that's probably why you've kept your boat rowing in the direction that you want. You've pretty much worked for yourself.
Yeah, I have. I have. And I'll tell you what, one of the biggest elements of me working for myself and doing it successfully is my business is almost completely self-reliant. Like the only person who will produce something is me, and the only person who will stop production is me, and the only person who will find gigs is me, and the only person who will practice is me. Like, you know, and I don't have to call anybody and be like, or tell anybody, hey, you didn't do this. The only person, you know, I'm the only person accountable for that. And I realized that the way that things happened to me, I realized that was the way for me, because I could rely on myself, and that was about it. You know, and it's not very easy to come up with some sort of way of doing things to where you're the sole proprietor, if you could say that. Yeah. And you know, so that's another reason why my musical style evolved the way that I do. I make the trumpet sound and I play live, and I incorporated a loop pedal to my guitar playing, you know, and I play all these different styles because I had to like get myself into as many gigs as possible to make a living at it, you know.
I think it's pretty incredible because I've worked with so many musicians in Jacksonville over the years, and nobody is getting as many gigs as you, and it's just like, and I've watched you and I've watched Chris Thomas. I don't know if you've been watching his career as well.
A little bit.
It's just like nobody's getting the level of gigs that you guys have, and it's like you obviously are doing something different, you know. And that's one of the things right there is just being able to go through an entire set and have a whole mix of sounds and a whole bunch of different feels and bringing them up in the emotion and down and the emotion and fast tempo and slow tempo. And it could be just be you, or you could have a drummer, and then the experience.
Yeah, he has a band though, right?
Oh,
Chris Thomas?
He has a band. Sometimes it's just him and a drummer. Sometimes it's just him and some horn. Yeah. You know? Mm-hmm. Chris Thomas is so phenomenal at marketing. Yeah. He's just crushing it.
Oh, wow.
He's very, very good at marketing.
Yeah, I didn't even know.
Yeah. His strategy is flood. And I've never been very fond of that, but because he's so warm in whenever he posts these things, it comes off so great and people want to support him.
Yeah, you're talking about posting on social media? Yeah, I posted on social media. It didn't do that much for me. It maybe got like a few people come to my gig, and that was it. And the time that I used to invest into it, I was like, I'm not doing this. You know, it's like, because the return, if maybe 100 people came to my gig, I would be all about it. I'd be posting on there. Yeah,
somebody that I've seen that's gotten a very, very high return. Have you ever followed Samuel Sanders?
No. I don't know who it is. How high could the return be if I don't know who it is?
It's not your kind of music, for
I'm
one.
Just kidding.
You're not in the target market. But Samuel Sanders, he's another local musician, and he completely funded his last album. And I know by funded, I mean he got a lot of copies printed. I mean, I want to say 200,000 copies.
Nobody's gonna buy them.
I mean, they were already funded. I mean, it was already paid for before before the campaign was over.
People aren't buying CDs anymore.
I mean,
I'm kidding. They actually are. I would love to buy a CD from somebody.
He's phenomenal. I mean, and he's a really good performer as well, which is another dying art right there.
Yeah. Yeah, live performances, people are the weakest at their live performance. They're good in the studio because they paste everything together and they do all kinds of studio tricks and auto-tuning. And you go see some bands live and you're like, holy shit, man. Like when I first saw the you ever heard of a band called the Smashing Pumpkins?
Oh, yeah.
So I saw the Smashing Pumpkins live. And I was like, what the hell is going on with this? Like, sounds terrible. You know, the vocals, and it's like, it's bad. You know, the guy's legendary, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the sound they came up with and whatnot. He's legendary to the scene. I like their music, but I don't think they're not like that to me. You know, I have a different perspective on it because I'm a musician and because I'm just odd. I just have an odd place in the world, a unique place in the world. You know, I just heard Neil deGrasse Tyson say... it was awesome. This quote is awesome. I wish I could pull it up right now, but I don't want to do that. Which is, just last night, I heard him say that, he said, if you can find your unique place in the world and if everybody had the opportunity to find their unique place in the world and where they flourish, something like this, all the world's problems would be solved overnight. But people have to be given the opportunity to do that. And that's the difficult thing, is that people are not giving the opportunity to find where their calling is and what they're the best at. Naturally, what comes naturally, the natural liking to them, and that was great. It was amazing.
I adore him. I listen to him.
Yeah, I'm going to post that quote.
That's fantastic.
For the show notes.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really adore him. I think I can relate to that. I mean, I just remember growing up and being told my whole life everything I'm bad at. I'm a terrible speller, but I always figured I was a good writer. And I think that happens to a lot of people. They just grow up and being told all the time about how terrible they are in school and how terrible they are at this and that, and they're bad at sports and they're bad at making friends and they're bad at that, and they're just having their confidence crushed over and over and over again. So they probably don't feel as confident to go and venture out and discover what they're good at, because trying new things has been so catastrophic for them.
Well, that, and then you're stuck in the machinery. You're stuck in the assembly line of everything. Because you go to school, you go from grade school, then to college, and then out of college, and you're supposed to get a job. And
well, that kind of model is kind of dying off, though. I don't think it's going to be that way for most people.
Yeah, it needs to die faster. That kind of model needs to die faster. It's not everybody that wants to live that kind of life, though. I mean, especially my parents' generation. It's like they're realizing that, okay, we can't survive working in a job anymore, and we have to adapt, and we have to become suppliers, and we have to start a business. But they don't really want to. They want to just have a job and work in the machine. Yeah. And they don't realize how much happier they would be if they did have a business. Yeah, my wife she tells me that most people are the type of person that just want to have a job. Yeah. Like, just tell me what to do. I'll just come here every day, and you pay me $15 an hour, and I'm cool with that. And that most people are like that. But I think they're like that because of education. Like, I think they're like that because of that whole education process.
So they've been programmed from a very young age. Okay, this is what you're going to do when you're older. Yeah. And now I'm older, and this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, because I was dumb. I'm still dumb. It's like, but I mean, I was dumber. And I realized that I grew up in a family that was really good-hearted and was not going to Harvard. Nobody was going to Harvard. Nobody went to college, And I was maybe the first or the second person to go to college in my family. And
it's incredible.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about college. I had a scholarship to JU, and I didn't know anything about going to school. I didn't go to JU because I was 27 at the time, and I realized that I'm not going to work. I'm not going to go to school all day, and then work in the evening, and then study until I'm not going to sleep. I'm not 18. I was 27. I was like, I'm not going to do that. I don't care. And the scholarship was for theory and composition of music. And what are you going to do with that? And
well, there's a whole lot you could do with that. It's kind of funny how
you can go to school, and you can go to school, and you can teach, and you can do some teaching too.
Some pretty famous music composers though, like Pharrell.
Pharrell?
Yeah.
No, I don't know who that is.
You don't know who Pharrell is? Do you know who Snoop Dogg is?
Yeah.
And do you remember that Snoop Dogg song that had the clicking noises back in the 90s?
Yeah. Pop it like it's hot.
Pop it like it's hot. That's Pharrell.
Okay.
That's Pharrell that composed that song.
Yeah, but he didn't go to school for it.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, he didn't need to then. He composed that song. So.
He's incredibly talented, but going to school helped him. Yeah. And pretty recently he came out with a huge hit, made him millions. Yeah. And it's Because I'm Happy.
Oh, yeah, okay. I didn't know that was the same person.
Same person. Yeah. I've been following his career my whole life.
Okay, but see, the thing is, though, the problem is that some people find this hard to believe, but I'm exactly where I want to be in life. Like,
I believe it. You're one of the most content people I've ever met.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that you see that.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, because you know, I used to when I was on Facebook, I used to mess around a lot. I used to fart around a lot, and I was a depressing person on there sometimes. Like for a month, I'd be depressing just on purpose. Just, you know, I don't know what the hell I was doing on there. But it was great. I was hilarious on there.
I think one way you might be misunderstood is because you like to criticize things a lot, and that might make people think that you're unhappy.
Yeah, I'm negative and unhappy.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a correlation. It's like just because you can recognize that something may not be right doesn't mean you're unhappy. You know?
Right. I'm like, my life is great.
Just thinking. It's like, okay.
My society is whacked. You know.
I never shared that view. I think this is the best it's ever been. I think this is the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
I never shared your view. I've always been open-minded to it, and I've always tried to look to see, okay, what if he's right? And I've learned way more about the world, you know, since we've met, especially about Kadar and about the Middle East. And I've just been fascinated about what I found. I mean, Syria seems to me to be one of the most fascinating travesties now, because it's like we've just lost one of the greatest nations. It's now rebel, and we didn't even know it was great until it's destroyed. And gratefully, you know, a lot of those people have come here. And
you're talking about the thing about Assad and the Syrian rebels?
I'm talking about how Syria is a country that we have been part of its destruction during its, you know, its civil war. And now, you know, people are not going to understand what they've lost. You know, now that the Egyptian Empire is gone, now that the Roman Empire is gone, we still mourn a lot of the great things that we lost when those empires collapsed. But we don't understand what we lost when Syria was destroyed. And I think that that's one thing that you showed me, is that, okay, just because we're in a war and just because there's some people that are there that may not be good people, that doesn't reflect the entire population of that country. You know, just because there's people that have come over here from Mexico that have killed people, you know, that's a very small minority of what represents Mexico.
Yeah,
and
the crazy people are the minority always.
Yeah, of everything. There's going to be crazy people that belong to everything. And you can't show that as a representation of what the whole thing is.
So now, how did you see things before? Maybe you thought more that it was like, oh yeah, the whole country's whacked.
This is the way that I...
But wait a minute. The Syria thing, I don't know. First of all, I'm going to tell you right now, I know very little about Syria, except what people post on Twitter. And so do you think that the Assad regime is, like, if you had to pick a side, whose side would you pick, the rebels or the Assad regime?
So you've asked two questions, and I think I can answer them both, because I think they're super related. And it's basically, you first ask, okay, how did you think of these countries before, and what do you think of them now? And then you're thinking of, okay, if I had to pick a side, the rebels or the Assad regime. Okay, so these are interrelated questions. And whenever I was in high school, I kind of saw everything as like a piece of paper. It's like, okay, I have my view, and I'm on this side of the piece of paper, and everybody else is on this other side of the piece of paper. And I'm Republican and they're Democrat, and I'm black and they're white, and I'm female and they're male, and I'm just on the other side of the piece of paper. And then I graduate from high school and I learn a little bit more, and I'm on a cube. Okay, and now my view is one side of the cube, and I can see a little peek of 4 sides of the cube and my side. So I have 5 perspectives, but there's still another 6th perspective that's completely hidden away from me, and I'm obviously completely on the opposite side of it. But now I can see at least 5 perspectives a little bit. And so it's hard for me to definitively say, okay, I'm on one side of this issue. Now I feel like I'm on a freaking 20 die, like in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
I feel like I can see 19 sides of the die, and there's another 20 sides of this die. And I know they exist, and they're on the opposite side of me, and they're just out of reach of my perspective. And they're just on the other side. And they may not be the opposite of what I believe, and I might agree with them if I could see them, but I'm just outside that information. And so I'm learning that every single issue is far more complicated than, okay, it's Assad versus rebels. And the media likes to simplify it because it's easier for us to swallow it. In the case of Assad, one thing that I've learned is that he's warning the world that he's trying to squash terrorists in his country, and that his country is being threatened by these terrorists, and that he has to go through any means necessary to destroy these people. And then on the other side, all we're hearing about is that there's all these human rights violations that are happening, and these people are being killed, and that these cities are being blown up by the Assad regime as he's trying to basically destroy these terrorists and get them out of his country and end any kind of rebellion against his rule. So that's kind of the dialogue that we're hearing about that conflict. But there's this whole other dialogue that I've just uncovered, and it's made me look at the entire conflict in a whole new light. And that is, what if the Assad regime is right? And what if the rebels that are fighting against the Assad regime and trying to unseat his government really are terrorists, really are affiliated with Al-Qaeda, really are affiliated with ISIS and all these other very radical groups that are not talked about as often, but are much more scary than the ones that are on the news, like ISIS. And what if he was doing what he thought was best for his country? He wasn't going about it the right way, but what if he thought he was doing what he thought was best for his country? Okay, America and the European Union and majority of the known world has been funding, training, and bringing weapons to the rebels in Syria. Mm-hmm. Okay, what does that mean for us if he was right? What does that mean for us if we've brought weapons and we've trained and we've been a part of creating and funding the very people that we say that we're trying to unseat? What if we're on the wrong side of this conflict? And what if we didn't take enough time to investigate who
But the United States funds Assad, right? They don't fund the rebels, they fund Assad.
The United States backed the rebels in the Syrian conflict. And then there's quite a few bit of research to show.
See, you could tell me whatever you want because I don't know.
and then there's we could pass some links too, which could be interesting conversation afterward. And then there's research to show that some of these groups that have fought against Assad has gone out to form what is now ISIS, and so we have actually empowered them with enough resources to coagulate and form what is now ISIS. And so it's like.
So you, if you don't mind me, I'm moving in a slightly direction off to the side in my question. That have you ever thought about living in a place where this is going on? Like the dialogue next door here that we are overhearing is, "Hey, we have to fight Assad," or "No, I'm for Assad." And there's people recruiting people for a quote-unquote terrorist or rebel organization, whatever it may be, and we live in a very different world
right.
from them. And I wonder how I would react. What would I be doing? What would I think? Whose side would I be on if I was over there? I could tell you right now, if you killed my family, I would be on the side against whoever killed my family. And so it's pretty simple. It's like,
that's kind of the power that ISIS has, because they can march into a village that was just destroyed during a conflict and say, okay, so when was the last time you had food shipped into your city? Okay, that's 6 months ago. Okay, we're going to make sure that you have a constant supply of food that's shipped into your city. You just have to give us your 200 best, healthiest men, and we're going to make sure you always have food. Your city's going to be protected, and all the people that killed your people during this conflict, we're basically going to wipe them out, because now we are 500,000 strong, and you're never going to want for anything.
I think it's fascinating how there's a conveyor belt of enemies, that comes that the United States identifies and the Western world identifies as enemies.
Oh yeah,
and they come one right after another.
Oh yeah,
and it's like, okay, so ISIS, you would think that the way that people talk about ISIS right now, you would think that they've been around for 200 years.
Yeah,
and they have been
very new.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but you would think the way that people talk about them, like the media is saturated. It's on everybody's lips. This is the focal point of what's going on. And,
it's better than Shakespeare. The dialogue that's coming from ISIS,
yeah.
It's better than Shakespeare. I mean, think about it. You have a group of people that are capturing journalists. Journalists are generally supposed to be protected. Mm-hmm. A journalist is supposed to feel relatively safe. And they go over there and they're telling the story and they're brave. And you're going to capture them and you're going to have them on camera and you're going to demand some outrageous amount of ransom money and then chop off their head. And then the American people can see this playing out all the way. I mean, this is just like Shakespeare.
Yeah, you know what I first thought when I saw those videos? I thought that it was like a false flag operation.
Yeah. You thought it was just like all engineered?
I thought it was engineered because I was like, they didn't show the beheading. Not that I want to see the beheading. I don't. And, but they didn't show that. And it was like so studio produced. I'm like, this is over the top. Like, it was like a handheld camera, like if it was Law and Order or something. And there was a soundtrack to it, maybe. I don't know. And the guy was all like, it looked like the opening of a video game. And he was one of the fighting characters. And he's like, hey, I'm going to take this person down. Like, and drums and stuff. You know, I think there was drums in there.
I mean, it very well could be. ISIS has been very polished in their approach. And they've been very successful with getting money from Europe with this approach. Because, I mean, a lot of the journalists that are in Al Jazeera, America, and Al Jazeera in, not Al Jazeera, but America, but Al Jazeera, you know, in the main organization, those journalists are followed in Europe and they're revered. And if you saw a journalist that you recognize and you've been watching their stories and hearing their voice being interviewed on the radio, and all of a sudden you saw them on TV about to be beheaded, you know, I mean, I could see why those countries are being moved to pay the ransom and get those people back safely. But this is a way that the terrorist organizations are funding what they're continuing to do. Oh, no, I don't think it's a farce. And I think it's very interesting that the top leaders in ISIS are so accessible right now. They all have social media accounts, and I've heard that they are willing to do any type of communications with any European or American leaders. They'll receive satellite phone calls, and I just thought it was just really interesting because they have demands and they want those demands to be met. So
what are their demands?
Money, for one. They've been doing quite a few dramatic tactics to get money.
Money. You know why they want money? So they can buy the best. the best coffee.
The best weapons.
The best car, the best weapons, my friend.
The best bunkers.
The best, my friend.
The best.
So yeah, that's a mess. And
Yes.
And it's a mess, and I try to pay attention to it as much as I possibly could. And, you know, there's a whole world out there. When you go on the internet, you go on your cell phone or a computer, the whole world is accessible to you.
Yeah, I love it.
And that is not, people's brains are not built that way. You know, everybody has the world's weight on their shoulders, and everybody has one person's ability. So it's very disproportionate. You know, and it could ruin your life. It could ruin people's lives. Like the internet, if you use it wrong, it could ruin your life. It's like, or at least for a period of time. Who knows? Maybe people have gotten so depressed looking on the internet that they kill themselves. Who knows? You know?
Who knows how many people have been saved because they could go on the internet and they could. I know
post in a
it's happened to me.
forum.
Yeah, and they could just
Yeah.
talk to somebody about what they're going through. And find someone to relate to. I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, I have a friend today. His birthday. His name's Tony Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And 20 years ago today, he was really drunk and he got into his friend's dad's car, and he tried to kill himself. And he fired the gun 3 times before he passed out drunk in that car. He woke up in the morning, so grateful to be alive. He spent his entire life just trying to, you know, working the suicide hotlines and try to raise awareness.
Wait, he missed 3 times?
He fired the gun and the gun misfired. He went 2 weeks later with the same gun to the shooting range, and it worked perfectly fine. And it just feels like it's a miracle for him to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so today is his birthday, and every year on his birthday he tells that story about how lucky he feels it to be alive, and how that's why he feels so charged to help other people to, you know, get through those hard times when you feel like you want to give up.
Yeah, suicide, I'll tell you right now. Suicide, if you ever hear that I killed myself, it's a total lie. Somebody killed me. They suicided me.
They suicided you.
Yeah.
That's a new one, right?
Yeah.
Did you make that one up?
No, it's a term.
Oh, yeah?
Suicided, yeah. It's an internet term.
Oh, is it internet term?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, in the places where all the dudes hang out that don't have girlfriends. And, you know.
That's a new one for me. Yeah, you're definitely content. I mean, you got the newborn, you got the wife, you got the house. You live on the most beautiful place on earth.
Yeah.
You get to just do what you love all day.
Yeah, it's, you know, there's work to all of it. There's work to all of it. There's always work. There's work in being homeless. You try being dirty for 48 hours straight and not taking a shower and, you know, and eating out of trash cans. You know, that's work. Everything is work. You know, it just depends on if you're living the life to where you decided what your work is going to be, or somebody's telling you what your work is going to be. You know, that's the defining factor. You can see things well, it's a way to see things. And yeah, why did I say that? Why were we talking about that? Oh yeah, life and we're talking about the dude killing himself and whatnot. You know, so going back to Syria, which I don't know very much about. Going back to Syria, I'll tell you what I see on Twitter. I follow people on Twitter. I use TweetDeck, so I have a bunch of news feeds going down at the same time. And depending on what my interests are right now, that's what the news feeds that I'll have going on. And I see devastation, and I see children being bombed, being killed, and I can't even look at it really because it's that bad. I can't. I put the news feed off way to the side because I just cannot. You know, I just skip it because I can't deal with it. You know, and they talk about us. Look what Assad's regime does, and they post videos of things. And being on Twitter, I'll tell you, I'm not like an advocate for any particular company. It just so happens that this tool right now functions as a different news source in a way, because being on there, I've witnessed events happening in recent history where the media and everything else is reporting this one thing that happened, and the people on the ground are uploading a completely different reality in real time. I can definitely relate to that. And the most recent example I can tell you of that, which isn't very recent, was that protest in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. Oh wait, actually, I think more recent than that was the unrest in the Ukraine before it became what it is now, which is completely different. But in the Ukraine, whenever they decided not to join the European Union, the dialogue on Twitter was completely different than what the news was reporting. So that's I completely know what you mean. Yeah, it was very mixed up, right? The dialogue online was very nuanced, and it was not so black and white. Like, oh, do they want to be part of Russia? Is this what you're talking about? Crimea, or do they want to be part of Russia? Or do they not want to be part of Russia? Crimea, even, but yeah, that's an interesting thing right there. Yeah, and I have friends who think that this net neutrality, the way that we have it right now, is on this road. Like academics who think that we're certainly going to lose it. They're like, oh yeah, that's not going to pop. That's not going to happen, because it's very hard to control people when people can communicate with each other so quickly. You know, so much of controlling people is involved in them being ignorant about certain things. Yeah. You know, and if you're not ignorant about something, you can't control people. You know. The hard thing about, and I think that it's good that you're kind of off Facebook in this way, because I've watched a whole dialogue of an event happening and seen a whole bunch of misinformation being traded around on Facebook. And I haven't seen the same kind of phenomenon happen on Twitter. I've just seen basically like a whole bunch of like real-time account happening on Twitter where they're posting photos and videos of what they're experiencing. Whereas on Facebook, I've seen like, okay, an event just happened and then a whole bunch of people are sharing this article or this review of this experience, and then nobody's saying, okay, let me click on this thing and let me read it all the way through and let me follow through on this source. And then I do that, and then I say, wait, this is garbage. But how many millions of people have shared this before? You know, and how many people have assimilated this into their perspective of this event before you realize, okay, this is complete garbage. Yeah, the reason it doesn't happen on Twitter is because there's no room. Well, I mean, all you can do is post a link and do a quick blurb. Hey, guys, check this out. Crazy shit. Yeah, articles like it doesn't have the same impact on Twitter. You're right. And you know, something else. I was experimenting with Twitter before I started looking at it, and things on Facebook, it was far too personal for me. Like the encroaching of my real life into the internet world. I'm like, that's something I love. Oh, you can love it all you want, but I'm like, It's like, this is not. I come here this isn't the real world over here. This is some other shit that's going on right now that I can unplug and it's gone. Or somebody else can unplug at the server end and it's gone, you know? And, but yeah, that thing, things that happen online, things that would happen online for me on Facebook would sit with me longer, to a point where I would invest time on there even when I wasn't even on there. I would be thinking about what happened on there. Yeah, and that happens to me. Yeah, and I personally didn't like that in my life. you know, and then Twitter is more like to my liking in the sense that it was about sharing information and sharing links that are on the internet, not that tool being the place that you're supposed to be at, but checking other things out that are out there.
Yeah, Twitter's more of a portal to jump into something else. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's things I have my complaints about it too.
Twitter has the worst, second worst. Okay, after LinkedIn, let's say second worst. Twitter has the worst direct messaging platform, and I really hope.
Well, they changed it now. You know,
I know they got rid of the character limit, but that wasn't the problem with it.
What is it?
The problem with it is they don't need it at all.
Yeah.
Get rid of it altogether.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hardly use it.
It's just it's mostly just a tool for spam.
Mm-hmm. I never get spam on there though.
Oh, thank goodness!
Oh, you do?
You're so lucky. I get it all the time,
yeah.
And I always get so excited because I want someone to message me. I want someone to try and connect with me. I'm doing Periscope. I'm doing all this kind of stuff. You know, I want someone to message me.
I want to get on Periscope. I don't know anything about Periscope. I know that it's live.
Did you do Meerkat?
Video feed? No. What is that?
Same thing.
Oh, so yeah, Periscope is live video feed, right?
Oh yeah. It's pretty cool because it's kind of like it's kind of like a one-way conversation in that they're seeing what video you have, they're hearing what you're saying or not saying.
I can Periscope this if I wanted to, right?
You could, yeah. And you would just have to be doing it through a cell phone, and then you could see the text that's coming in, and they can ask you questions.
Do you ever feel stupid? Do you ever feel stupid, like, because I do, talking so much about our devices and our technology? No?
It's like integrated into who I am. I love it.
Yeah, this is part of our life. It's part of our world.
I love it. I love that someone created a tool that allows us to connect in all these different ways. And I love it that I can talk to people from all over the world all the time. I mean, so much of the percentage of the world speaks English. I would love to learn Spanish and Portuguese and Chinese. I mean, not Chinese, but, Mandarin Chinese.
Do you think that people are more alone in spite of being so connected with the internet?
Yes. And it's for the reason that nobody is talking about. And it's that now that we're all connected and we're sharing all these bright moments of our lives, we're feeling in ourselves like we don't have enough bright moments in our lives. And so instead of taking the time to go and create those bright moments so that we have more things to share, it's setting a lot of people into a depression. And I feel bad because before I was in a relationship, I always used to hate those people that were always posting with their stupid boyfriends. It's like, nobody wants to see that. Or there's people that are posting with their stupid babies. Nobody wants to see your dumb fat baby. I would always say that. I would be like 16 and I'd be like, God, why do you think that people want to see your baby walking for the first time? Like, babies walk every day. And now that I'm in my 20s and I get it. This is important and I get it. And I'm like, oh, and I just get it. But then I'm like, I have to take a moment sometimes and think, when I post this, who's going to feel weird about this, And so sometimes I do take a pause and I feel like, I wonder if I should share this, You
know what? That says more about you than it says about anybody else that you could be talking about. Because it shows that you're sentient and compassionate and empathetic enough to where you're actually taking this into account. Because I could think of so many people that just be like, fuck it, I'll just post whatever I want. It's like, this is you can hate on it or take that type of attitude. One time I posted myself, I noticed that I was posting myself at the beach in the daytime on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And I noticed that it was not having a good effect. I noticed that I was actually making people feel bad because they were at work. And, life that I leaded, and it turned into, a friend of mine, Matt, told me that he took a road trip and something similar happened to him. And he said without him wanting to, and I found the same experience with me, it turned into boasting.
Yeah.
Without even intentionally having it be, that was not your intention. Not
at all.
No, but it turns into it. And the way that it translated was boasting, and you have to accept it as it translates. You know what I mean?
Most definitely. And it's funny because there's a quote that I don't know who spoke it, and I'm going to butcher it, and I'd love to find it, but it's basically about what you communicate is not about what you say, but how it's perceived. And that's kind of what it's going on the same lines of. It's that, you're trying to communicate, I like this, I'm enjoying this, I like this day, look at this sunrise, would you like to see the sunrise? Not a big deal, but this might be like a deep-rooted issue for someone. I'm trapped in this cubicle, this job I hate, and I am not making enough money to pay my bills, and then look at this guy. He's home all day. Not only is he home all day, but he can go to the beach. Screw this guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I definitely went through it with my company because I would eat out 5 times a day. I was eating out all the time. I mean, that was my lifestyle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my Instagram feed was me constantly eating out. And if I was late on a deadline, oh, you better believe I would hear it. Oh, so you're just hanging out and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, we have strategy meetings.
Companies and certain departments of the government they audit people, like the tax people audit people's Facebooks. Like if you're posting that you're on vacation and you owe money to the IRS.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's true though.
I've never heard that before.
Oh, it's true. You can find articles about it.
Oh, it makes sense, but I'd never heard it. That's insane.
And debt collectors.
Oh yeah.
And all different kinds of situations like that.
I'll tell you now. I've worked as a debt collector for a total of 3 years of my life. Now that is broken up into chunks because I've never stayed with anything for 3 years. But debt collecting is the by far hardest job I've ever done, and I would hate that job right now. It's hard in ways that you don't even. It's hard in ways that you wouldn't even believe. It's hard. But I was very good at it.
Like how?
The amount of data that you have to sift through. Just the sheer amount of data about a single person that you get with each account that you have to sift through, and then you have to decide, okay, what's important towards the goal and what's not important, and you have to try and make a connection with this person very quickly and get them to do the last thing that someone wants to do, which is part with their hard-earned money with a debt that they're like not going to probably have very many consequences for not paying. And our entire society is paying.
I knew a guy named Angelo. He'd be like, "Yeah, I'll send the guy. You want me to go over there and break his fingers? I'm gonna break his fucking fingers." Yeah, come on, let's go. I'll go with you. Go with you. Come on.
My coworkers used to tell me about the good old days in the 70s and 80s when you could threaten people. They said everybody paid their bills in the 80s.
Yeah, you'd like call them and threaten, make threats.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because the laws work differently.
Yeah.
You know, because debt collectors could very quickly reclaim assets in lieu of debt. So they could freeze bank accounts. They could take a portion of your pay. They could take your car. They could put liens on your house. Blah blah blah. They could do those things relatively quickly, within a matter of months. And so if they threaten those things, most of the time they weren't going to do them. But because it could be done so often, and you probably knew somebody that it happened to, when they made the threat, you paid the bill. So in the 80s, it was much better. It was a much more lucrative.
Back in the 80s, when people were wearing neon green, and what were they doing? Their hair was frizzed out, and they were putting a bunch of hairspray in their hair and teasing it out. And the 80s that was an amazing time because that was an era of serious originality. Like they were not copying the 50s. Like right now, people are copying the 20s and the 1890s and the 1910s and the 1930s. With prohibition theme stuff and the beards and the mustaches and it's like going back in time. And it's like I'm not crazy about it. But what am I going to do? It's like
but you live in the Goliath bubble, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. And the Goliath bubble. That's what it is in here. That's what it is up in here. But the 80s the music was unique. Synthesizers were just barely introduced. They became ubiquitous in the music industry, and people were using them in all these different interesting kinds of ways. And and song structures were there was all these crazy song structures with these odd bridges and harmonies and changes and the fashion was just. It was like futurist, tacky, frosted tips and spiky hair. I would love to see something like that. Like, cause it was such a mess. Like the 80s were such a mess in the sense of like, you can just do whatever you wanted. Like not whatever you wanted, but what was acceptable was so broad. The haircuts that you can have and the clothes that you can wear. It
came out of the 70s. The 70s, they just did so much wild things, and it's just like...
70s bell bottoms and afros and chest hair, and gold chains and certain things like that.
And this thing. I mean, that's the generation that raised the '80s kids, and those kids. I mean, that's probably why they got so much leeway to just be whatever. And then those people grew up and they were like, "Oh crap, my generation, we got to reel these kids in a little bit." My mom, she tried, but she couldn't do much.
Yeah. What did she try to do?
She tried to reel me in. She tried to. She wanted me to be polished, and she tried to teach me to a certain extent. But I've never been very polished, and I like the idea of being polished.
You mean polished, like in the sense of your manner of dressing and that kind of thing?
Yeah, she wanted me to have great manners and be.
Yeah, you don't have bad manners. You have good manners.
I mean, I think she did a good job in everything, but I have horrible posture. She was always very serious about posture. She talked to me about that
I'm going to tell you as your friend, I'm going to tell you that you need to work on your posture because your posture you're talking about your column, your main pillar of existence, which is your spinal column, and your organs. Like if you don't have good posture, you're squishing your organs in a certain way. And believe it or not, it's possible that this, just over a long period of time, having bad posture can cause health problems. Just because your organs may not be sitting properly, But it's not going to happen in a year or 2 years or 10 years. It's like,
This I've heard, and I've got terrible scoliosis, and I got
What is scoliosis?
A miscurvature of your spine.
Okay.
So
I have somebody you could see that is a genius.
We have a genius, but
you do?
I just haven't been. I just don't care.
Yeah. Well, you should care. What the hell? What are you talking about? You don't care. What is that?
This goes back to our conversations back in the day about privacy. It's like it's the same type of thing. It's like exercise and health, and I don't smoke anymore. I don't do certain things I used to do. I don't eat Burger King 3 times a day. But to a certain extent,
you used to smoke like cigarettes.
I used to smoke cigarettes.
Yeah,
and I quit that, and it was a very difficult thing for me to do. But when I did it,
it always is.
It was part of my identity. I mean, it's just like I was the type of person. I fit into this box, and that person smoked cigarettes, and I had to let go of that entire person to stop smoking, and it was just a whole ordeal to go through. But anyway,
yeah, smoking is smoking used to not be so inconvenient, let's say in the 80s. Or let's go back even further. Let's say in the 60s or the 50s or even the 70s. Even in the 70s, you can find movies and television shows where people are smoking in the offices.
Yeah.
The fucking doctor is talking to you. You have lung problems and we need to check it out. And the doctor's like...
smoking a cigarette right there.
Yeah. And
we didn't have a clue.
But today, you're so aware of what's going on with cigarettes and the tobacco industry and all these things, and people are very discriminatory towards it. So there's all of these things that you have to do now. You can't just be a smoker now. You have to be a smoker, and you have to wash your hands, and you have to do this, and you have to keep your clothes separate. If you're going to be in certain environments where people are going to judge you for it. Environments of excellence.
I'm shocked all the time when I see people smoking, dude. I'm so shocked. I'm like, seriously? You still smoke? I saw a pack of cigarettes at the gas station the other day on sale for $8.
What?
It was like on sale for $7.85, and I was like,
yeah.
I remember buying a pack of cigarettes for $3.99.
When I used to smoke American Spirits.
Okay.
And those were expensive. And I used to smoke Sherman's, Nat Sherman's, I think it was. I can't remember that.
You used to stick pretty natural.
Yeah, it still sucked though. It's still bad for you.
Yeah, it's all bad for you. I mean, anytime you're going to be inhaling carbon, that's...
Yeah, it's like 2,000 ingredients in there.
I mean, American Spirits is tobacco pretty much. I mean, tobacco is pretty simplistic overall.
So there's still like 200 ingredients in there.
Really?
Yeah, just because of what tobacco produces naturally.
Oh, I see.
And the effects of burning it.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And if you chew it, it's a different story too, But yeah, I didn't know that. That's surprising. So yeah, I'm glad you quit. I commend you on that. Now we got to do the scoliosis thing over here.
Oh man!
I could introduce you to this guy, Derek Gill. He might be able to help you out, and he's really good. I can't say because I'm not an expert, and he would know what he would do. But I've had a few sessions with him, And I don't have scoliosis, but I could just say that the results are amazing.
I can tell you that
he does something called rolfing, and he was on the podcast
Rolfing?
He was on the podcast a few podcasts ago. I had a cold. So.
I got to catch up.
Yeah, I wish that my podcast. I wish I didn't have a cold because my head was really cloudy. I felt like shit. I was like, I had a cold, and
that changes the pace and everything.
It changes everything. It's like, and I was like, I'm never gonna do another podcast with a cold again. But you know what? I am.
He says that now.
If I have to, I have to. If a person can do it and I want to do it, let's do it. Fine. So if you don't mind, we should go back to Syria.
Okay.
No,
we're going to dig into Syria.
No, I'm kidding. Right before we started the podcast, we were talking about, you told me that your boyfriend, you were talking about other people in other countries and how you said something about, I don't remember. What did you say? Can you tell me?
So I was saying that I was digging in a little bit to Mexican culture, and it was super relevant, the conversation, because I was coming to see you, and I've spoken with you quite a bit about Mexican culture, where your roots are. And as soon as I mentioned the superior qualities of certain aspects of Mexican culture, my boyfriend mentions about how I can go ahead and go live in Mexico, be his guest, and go ahead and get my head chopped off.
Oh, yeah.
And he was dead serious. And he was vehement in his belief that if I were to live in a country like Mexico, a drug cartel was going to do all manner of bad things to me. And that was going to be my life.
Yeah, and then I said, yeah, because everybody in Mexico is in the drug cartel and everybody's getting their heads chopped off. And the only thing that exists from Mexico is laborers and drug cartels. And there's no
Can you see how they
artisans.
Can you see how so many people believe that, though? Can you fault
Yeah,
that?
it's crazy and it's sad.
Do you know how hard it is to find a different conversation, though? Like, I mean, just trying to find, like, a different way to perceive another country has been incredibly difficult for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, the first kind of portal into that was Etsy for me. Was just finding all these beautiful pictures of other countries, little neighborhoods and sidewalks and houses.
Did you say
storefronts.
Etsy?
No, I don't think I meant to say Etsy. I meant to say Pinterest.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But Etsy also was great. I mean, just seeing the different handmade goods that can be shipped here from, Guatemala and different places like that.
But Pinterest, so Pinterest was
Pinterest was a really great portal. And then because they have all these travel photographers that have gone overseas and they take these completely stunning photographs of ordinary neighborhoods. And you just see, okay, in America, you are not going to see a place where someone has painted a mural on the face of their house. Because the city zoning commission is going to sweep down and they're going to fine that guy until he paints his house a flat color. Especially if he's painting the sidewalk and the road in front of his house. That would never happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be unbelievable. I mean, we would love it. It would be on every magazine and newspaper in the world.
Yeah, it's sad. That part is sad. The uniformity that people want around here.
Oh, yeah.
Is sad. And I like it when I drive. It happens to be in the black neighborhoods. In Jacksonville in the South, because the deal here is black and white. Mm-hmm. Like you could be Hispanic and you could be some other minority. You could be from Albania. You could be from Ukraine, and you're on the outskirts. You're like the racial tensions are not about you here, and the divisions. But over like more up on the north side, in the black neighborhoods, I see houses colored primary yellow and primary blue and primary, and I love seeing that. I like it. Yeah, and it's very, and you notice that, what's funny is I noticed that most other countries color their houses like that.
Yeah, I mean, I just loved this lecture that I went to a few months ago. I don't know if you made it, but the Cultural Council of Jacksonville had Vito DeBari. Did you make it?
No, I don't know who that is.
Oh, he's this futurist.
But if it was, I don't know who that is, but if it was El DeBarge, I would have been very upset.
I don't know who that is.
It's a generational thing. El DeBarge, he's the guy who sang the song and goes, to the beat of the rhythm of the night.
Oh, I know the song.
In the morning light.
I know the song, yeah. I like that song.
Yeah.
Every time I hear that at Eclipse, I get
I looked him up like a few months ago. He looks exactly the same.
It's funny how that happens to some people.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
So
Vito DeBari he's a futurist, and he is a designer, and he calls himself an innovation designer, and he is from Italy. And I encourage anyone who's hearing this to find Vito DeBari on YouTube and find his TED Talk. It's VITODEBARI. And he came here and he did a lecture at the Florida Theater about the way that we are going to be adding the technologies that we are discovering into the things that we design, and to the everyday objects that we design, and into the buildings and the structures and the cars. We're not going to call them cars, of course, but into the things that we design. And it was just...
Are you talking about something like the Internet of Things? What they call the Internet of Things?
Almost taking that concept 10 steps further. Okay, so basically designing things with both technology and sustainability in mind. Paint that not only absorbs toxins from the air but changes color depending on the temperature of the air. Steps that absorb the pressure of your feet and that creates energy and music. Water that's rushing through micro turbines and creating energy.
Yeah, you know, I've seen a lot of different instances of what you're describing. The Japanese culture.
Yeah,
they
it's amazing.
do stuff like this.
We are so inferior.
You know,
we are so inferior here.
You know, I predict that sometime relatively soon, we're gonna live outside of the country. We're gonna live at some other place, some other country.
Your wife and your family?
Yeah, and I'm either gonna be like, yeah, America was the best, or I'm gonna be like, wow, people are so full of shit about that. You know, and it's gonna be either or. You know, and I know, you know, so much of my family doesn't live here. They live in Mexico, and they're just fine living in Mexico. And there's differences in life, and life doesn't mean the same thing there. You know, I've been there, and when I've been there, I don't understand life because there's no hustle and bustle.
Yeah,
and life is just
We've
about
talked
living.
about that before.
Yeah, and life is just about living, and it's a different priority set. And if you're not accustomed to it, it can mess with you. It can mess with you.
It sounds incredibly boring.
Yeah, right. Like you don't know what to do with yourself. So there's a lot of, you have to be a different kind of a person inside and have different things going on inside and not expect so much outside stimuli.
Yeah.
You know, which is healthy.
Most definitely.
You know, but you were telling me about the things like Stairs making music and Stairs,
absorbing the steps.
Tell me his name again.
Vito DeBari.
Vito DeBari, El DeBari. To the beat of the rhythm of the night. And so this guy, he was talking about that, or he's a designer of these things?
He's an innovation designer, and so he finds out about these upcoming technologies that are just on the brink of being perfected, and then he finds ways to incorporate them into everyday design. And that design is a very broad term, so it could be a design of something as permanent and long-lasting as a building, or something as temporary and ethereal as a piece of paper. And he was explaining about how in the very near future, as soon as 4 years, almost every ordinary object is going to have microprocessors, and they're going to be able to absorb different types of data. We're seeing it with the ubiquity of the Apple Watch.
If we don't kill ourselves first.
You sound like Elon Musk.
No, well, the thing is, it's just that to me, it just sounds too good to be true. Like all this stuff is like I noticed that there's a trend in human history, which is it reaches a pinnacle,
right, and
then something destroys it, or it destroys itself. You know, or it's a mystery what happened, why these people disappeared from these pyramids or this.
Are you speaking
area.
about the Mayans?
The Mayans or the Aztecs or the Egyptians or the Assyrians or the people in Uruk, you know, like, because Uruk is probably the oldest known civilization, you know, and they had a female president, for lack of a better, she was not Pharaoh, it was not Egypt, and, you know, and they had writing and libraries and writings that have survived to this day. Poetry and whatnot, and so like all these different civilizations have risen to great heights, but they don't sustain it. You know, like there's something about humanity, it seems, that has a threshold, like a boiling point or a tipping point. That's why I'm skeptical of when people are talking about mental implants and putting your consciousness into a computer or cyber, or cars driving themselves.
It's already there. I think we're there. But as far as downloading a consciousness into the computer, I know quite a few people that believe that that's our next kind of evolutionary step, that we are going to be surpassing organic life. But I don't see it. It doesn't make any sense to me our bodies is what makes us who we are.
If you can do it, would you do it?
Heck no.
If somebody said they can put you into a computer, everything for you would be exactly as it is. You would look the same. You could change yourself however you wanted to, meaning within the same constructs. Like if you wanted to eat a bunch of cake and get really big, you can do that. Or if you wanted to work out and like get tone, you can do that inside the computer. You can be sad in the computer. You can be happy in the computer. You can do everything you wanted the same way, but you would live forever. Would you do it?
I think my mind is supposed to find a time of peace, and I think it's supposed to go through time of cycle. And after this organic matter is broken down, I think I'm going to go and join the universe, and my consciousness should be able to break free and join all that is life and be part of the endless ocean of all that is. I wouldn't want to restrict myself to just the experience of one computer hive of constant thinking, and still be limited to the constructs of what I had before, and not know that next step. I don't know. I feel like that's a different type of purgatory right there that they'd be limiting themselves to. It seems like a possibility like that could be the next step for us, but I don't think it would be the right way for us to. I don't think we should do it. I think we could do it, but I don't think we should do it.
I saw this anime movie. I don't watch anime hardly ever. But I saw this movie. It was phenomenal. You would love it. Anybody who thinks about these kinds of things or considers these kinds of things would love this movie. And I'll post that also in the show notes, because I can't think of the title of it right now. It's an odd title. It's Japanese and it's translated. So.
Oh yeah, I love anime.
So 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 you wouldn't do that. I probably wouldn't do that either. Go and put myself into a computer, and you say people shouldn't do it. Like that we shouldn't do that. I think there's other things that we do right now that we shouldn't do.
And I agree with you to a certain extent.
Like we shouldn't. We shouldn't. Of course, we're focusing on the negative, meaning that we shouldn't do something. What we should do instead, but what we shouldn't do is like you go to the store and it's riddled with high fructose corn syrup and.
That's going to die away, though. It's already trending away. Yeah, it needs to.
And there's so many people. I play music in hospitals, and I play in the diabetes center, and of course, there's people with diabetes in there. And the vast majority of again, I'm told that I shouldn't say the vast majority. The majority of people in there when I'm in the dialysis center are ethnic. They're either black or Puerto Rican and whatnot, and the minority is white. And then when I go, I used to live in Springfield when it was predominantly a black neighborhood, well, anyway, it was at least half. And there was these Jiffy stores, and I'd go to the Jiffy stores. I'm like, man, you're trying to kill everybody around here. I'm like, is there anything? Oh, look, there's bananas there. That's about it. And even those have sugar, and but that's one of the things that we shouldn't do, poison people on purpose like that. I can't believe that we allow that. People are so frustrating to me sometimes that I can't believe that they allow companies to do things that they, I could be here for an hour telling you about all the things that I think that companies shouldn't be allowed, or that people should not allow companies to do. And I ultimately blame people, but
I got two perspectives on that issue that I think is worth talking about. So when I was growing up, I was raised by a woman who considers herself white, but she is Puerto Rican. And she raised me to be incredibly biased against black people, and I didn't learn a lot of black culture. And so until just recently, I've just started to understand some of the things that have happened 5 generations ago and that continue to repeat themselves, that have created the situation that the majority of black people in America are in. And what you're talking about, the food desert situation, where there are these Jiffy stores that are full of liquor and cigarettes, and there's no good food in those neighborhoods that's accessible.
McDonald's, Popeyes.
Yeah, I mean, there's no really healthy, fresh food that's available. The situation there, it happened so many generations ago, to where the white man owned the farm, and the white man could take the goods that they grew in mass to the marketplace and could trade those goods for fresh fruits and vegetables and things. But they wouldn't give those things that are so valuable that they just traded those goods to their slaves. They would give a very simple meal, to their slaves, enough to keep them alive. And when slaves were liberated and, now they have no education, they've got no stability, and they're forced to go out and figure out a way to survive. Some people figured out a way to become educated. Some people were handed that. But for the majority of African Americans in America, they don't have any kind of basis or foundation, and they don't understand what fresh, healthy foods to select when they are finally able to make money for themselves.
Well, you mean African Americans in the South?
In the South and the North, because a lot of them moved up into the North, but they don't know what food. They have a means of making money through labor. They don't have the education to make money to have a serious job, but they don't have the understanding to know what foods to select. So they're selecting what foods are most quickly and easily accessible and what foods are cheapest. Mm-hmm. And now these buying habits and eating habits have been passed generation to generation to generation. And so it makes you wonder how much of diabetes is really family related and how much of it is habit related that's been passed from mother to daughter.
Oh, it is not. It's not inherited.
Yeah.
No way. I mean, in most of the cases, no way. It's like you just look at the basic average menu of an American around here. Mm. I'm not talking about the people who live over here in Riverside, where there's a natural food store and all this kind of stuff. A farmer's market and all these. This is
pretty active lifestyle.
This is a tiny area of the city and this county, and but everything else that people have access to is like it's poisonous. It's bad stuff,
So whenever a farmer's market does go and set up, or what a lot of nonprofits are doing around the country is they're setting up a community garden, and then an impoverished family is getting handed these ingredients. They have no idea what to do with them, and they don't know how to use them in such a way. And if they do prepare them and they're making smoothies or salads or some things like that, these tastes are foreign to them, and they don't like it. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, you have to acquaint yourself to a healthier diet. Mm-hmm. To me, I've struggled with this my whole life. My mom has always fed me a certain type of diet, and when I became an adult and I realized, okay, I can eat a certain type of way, and I like chips, and I like blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. I gained a whole bunch of weight when I moved out of my parents' house because I could eat whatever I want. And now that I'm trying to refocus myself again to eating a healthier lifestyle, it's hard because it's like, oh, but I like the quick, easy, salty, sugary, type of food. Mm-hmm. And the green stuff, it tastes amazing and everything, but it's not as easy. It's going to take more prep work. You have to eat it faster. You have to shop more often. You're going to pay more for that food. That's a constant effort that you have to take to be healthy.
Lawns. I'm done with lawns. Like, I don't understand. People have lawns and they look pretty, and especially if your house is big and you have this big old lawn with some trees and next to it some flowers in the middle. I don't know. And but the space and the time and the energy and the resources that people put into their lawns is for getting nothing in return except some visual, beauty, which is important. But it wouldn't take too much adjusting to start seeing a garden there with food in it as appealing. I would love to see a transformation in society. I would love to see that. What it would look like on my block if everybody, instead of mowing their lawn, was out there
weeding and watering their garden.
Yeah.
Agriculture here is unsustainable. They cannot grow enough food for the demand that people have for it. Mm-hmm. So, if we did shift back to a society that did, grow some of their own food, I know we couldn't provide all of our own food each individually. That's not sustainable either. Mm-hmm. But if we did grow maybe at least our own fruits and vegetables and herbs, that would be better for our economy even as it is right now. I know that sounds crazy because I'm a capitalist through and through, but we cannot support the demand right now. We're making choices that are unsustainable. So I would love to see it too.
Yeah, I can't call myself a capitalist, but I am. But I'm not. It's not the only thing I am.
Yeah.
And that topic is that kind of thing is something I've been paying attention to quite a bit, and it's annoying to me now because there's no answers. It turns out, my conclusion with all that, it turns out, well, for now anyway, it turns out that these things are to be debated forever. And depending on what's happening in the world and in society, it's going to fluctuate between this and that. And there's people act like, no matter what they are, anarcho-capitalists or capitalists or socialists or communists, whatever they are, anarchists, they want a formula that they can implement and then go on autopilot. And life doesn't work that way. Like, there's no formula that people are going to put, oh, if we just install this formula into such and such country, it'll all work out.
I think that's why the jobs model is so appealing to most people, because they just get trained on a system. Mm-hmm. I implement that. I go into work and I implement that system day in and day out, and I have to navigate some changes, which keeps the job a little bit interesting. But for the most part, I don't have to deal with so much that the job becomes unbearable, which is kind of what happened to me. I mean, I had to deal with so many different changes at the same time that becomes unbearable. And so I can kind of see the appeal. Mm-hmm. But yeah, on the grander sense, I mean, think about how hard it is to navigate the system that we built.
But aren't you like addicted to the independence now? Like,
yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, I could never go back. If I had to go back, I might be miserable.
I have to go back every year. And I mean, I've started a business every year since I was 17. Mm-hmm. And I've had to go back every year. And it's just like, you learn a new lesson, and
you're going to start a cult one day and it'll work out. When I met you, after talking to you the first time I met you, I was like, yeah, she's going to start a cult. She's going to take over a quadrant of the United States. You might be the president one day.
That's what my mom wants so bad. She's told me that since I was a kid. But I don't want to be president. I don't think the president's happy. I've been watching our poor president right now.
Oh, hey, did you know that Obama was on a podcast recently? On Mark Maron's podcast in this guy's garage?
Really?
Just like last week.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I'll share it with you. I'll post that in the show notes too.
I just feel so bad for the guy. I just look at him and he just looks exhausted.
Well, it was nice to hear him talk like this.
Yeah.
The way that we're talking, he was just talking to Mark Maron.
It's I've never felt this before with any person alive. I have never felt such deep and profound respect for someone and disagreed with someone so wholeheartedly simultaneously. I feel like he is going in a direction that he feels is the right way, and I feel like his intentions are in the right place and his methods are all wrong. And it's a really interesting...
Like how? What do you mean?
Okay, so healthcare is a prime example. So healthcare is the number one cause of personal bankruptcy. And there's no possible way as a country that we could survive without finding a way to address healthcare. Now, if everybody could move more and eat better, we would be fine. Okay, but that's not going to happen. If people could potentially not abuse drugs, potentially, we would be better as a
including
country.
Alcohol.
Including sugar. Including coffee.
Including sugar, right. Because sugar is a drug. We should see it that way.
Most definitely.
I totally see it that way.
It's the worst drug right now. It's the epidemic of our age. Mm-hmm. If we could potentially... I mean, I've got a whole bunch of sugar right here. I've been drinking chai a lot lately.
Yeah.
But I have to wrap my head around the fact that, okay, yeah, just because you're drinking chai and almond milk, and just because you're getting complex sugars, you're still getting a lot of sugar in that drink. And I've been trying to cut out dairy, that's a big step towards health, but I mean, still.
You like cheese?
I love cheese, but it's so bad. Dairy is so bad for you.
Yeah.
Our body is not.
I'm going to give you some. You want some cheese? I have some cheese right here.
I love cheese, dude. I love it, but I'm trying to cut out dairy for the most part. I've been switching to almond milk, But so for Obama, I know that he realized, okay, this is one of the key problems of our age, okay, and I can do something in my presidency to address this problem. And so he takes a working model from a Republican, something that he figures would be accepted from both sides of the aisle, and he creates a type of legislation and gets it passed. I mean, I don't think people realize how monumental it is to get a piece of legislation passed. I don't think people understand how incredible it is that he even got that through. It is so hard to get anything through. The Congress is unbelievable. Anyway, so he gets...
Unless you're George Bush.
George Bush created Star Wars. Okay? So he gets the wartime powers of Star Wars. And George Bush, I think he did the right thing for his time as well. But that's a conversation for a different.
You're talking about the father, George Bush, or the junior? W. Bush.
W. Bush. He got a lot of legislation passed.
What do you mean? He created Star Wars?
I'm saying he did what they did in Star Wars. The Emperor in Star Wars said, we have an imminent threat. We need to have wartime powers given to me so that I can quickly dispose of this guy. These people should not be in danger. And you can trust me to take care of you. And that's what George W. Bush did. And he got his wartime powers, and he got a whole bunch of legislation passed very quickly, and he went in and he did his war.
Patriot Act.
Including the Patriot Act. And he went in there and he did his war. And I think it was the right thing for the time, because now we're seeing Hezbollah, we're seeing ISIS, we're seeing all of these crazy terrorist sects popping up and getting funding and being able to recruit online and very quickly gaining momentum. And I think it was the right thing to do. But
so let me ask you this. This is a new game for me that I like to play from time to time. The what if game, or like,
sure.
For example, I had I'll give you a little bit of background, and what prompted this thought was I was having a conversation with someone, and we were talking about September 11th, and they were talking about how after September 11th, if it was up to them, they would have, this was their exact words, they said they would have just nuked Afghanistan.
Oh my God.
That's what they said, right? And this is an educated, grown man, okay, who has a job that pays him well,
right,
in a technology field, and I was just dumbfounded at that, and I thought to myself, okay, what if the three of us that were talking, what if, like, we're listening to him and I don't share his view at all, but what if we were all wearing turbans and he was saying stuff like that? I told him, some people could say that you're being just as extreme as the people you're trying to.
Most definitely.
And I thought that was crazy. But I was bringing that up because my question to you is, after September 11th, if the United States didn't go into Iraq, which I think was a disaster, and I think it is a disaster, and it killed so many people, okay? Unfortunately, and I knew that that was gonna happen, because when the United States goes into a war for somebody, a lot of people die.
Right.
And I was very sad. And I felt powerless. And the protests around the world, it must be the most protested thing in the entire history of man, which is that war, because people knew, they knew the power that the United States has, and it's laughable. You're gonna attack who? It's like the biggest, strongest, baddest kid in high school is like in elementary school, and he's bullying kids around, so to speak, in a sense, like in terms of power disparity. So anyway,
the question.
Getting off topic there. The question is, what do you think the United States? What do you think would be like if the United States did not go to Iraq?
There's this thing about the military that shocks me, and I think about it constantly when I think about all of these different military engagements that we're involved in. And that is, why is it that we cannot seem to strike with precision? Okay, we have one of the most highly trained military bodies, and we have the ability to move on air, land, and sea. We have sophisticated technology. Why is it that we have no way to go into a very specific place and kill one person? So we're still using these airstrikes that are killing all of these neighboring people in the same city. So what you have is this small little group of termites that have invaded this building. And the termites are not being sprayed out. You're just blowing up the building to get rid of the termites. And all the people in the building are being killed. And so I think that we have to go in and we have to get rid of the termites. Mm-hmm. But we need to find a way to move with more precision in order to get rid of these threats. And Israel is even more guilty. They have to retaliate against Palestine, but to a certain extent, Israel likes that they kill a certain amount of casualties that are innocent, and they want them to see. And we are going to retaliate, and we are going to crush people that are innocent. And this blood is on your hands, because if you had never attacked us and you had never killed our innocents, your innocents would have never been in danger. And so you hit us once, we're going to hit you 5 times. And those 5 times, we're going to kill everyone around you. And Israel tries to always just go above and beyond, whatever attack happens to them. And that's why Israel has lost a lot of sympathy from the Western world over, the cross back and forth between Palestine. And I wish the same thing for Israel, that they would work. They have I think, in my opinion, they have the highest trained military in the world. I would not mess with them. And they might not have the same sophisticated technology, and they may definitely not have the spending power that we do, but they by far have the highest trained militia. And they definitely can hit with precision and weed these people out and find out who's affiliated with these groups and weed them out and get rid of them. But they're not hitting with precision. They're finding these targets and they're blowing up every building around it.
Yeah, I don't know much about the Israeli military. I know that they're highly trained and on par maybe with the United States, sections of the United States troops. And, yeah, it's all good and all, but that they're highly trained. So what do you think would happen though? What do you think would happen if here's
if
what I think.
If we didn't go in Iran?
Here's what I think would happen. No, if we didn't go into Iraq.
If we didn't go in Iraq.
Yeah, if we didn't go into Iraq, what I think would happen was September 11th happened, and this guy asked me, the guy who said he would nuke Afghanistan, he said to me, "What would you do?"
Okay.
He was like, and I was like, okay, and I was paused, and I said something, and then he said to me, "You're waffling," right? And I can already tell this dude spends a lot of time on Facebook,
right?
Because it's the kind of like,
and he likes to bait
posturing, that you're all like, oh, and I'm like, and I stopped, and I said to him, I was like, "There's nothing wrong with waffling." So I kept thinking, I kept thinking about what I was going to do. I told him I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't go. I wouldn't invade Iraq. Why would I invade Iraq? Like the whole thing is whacked, So these guys from Saudi Arabia and some guys from Afghanistan attack your country. This is old news to everybody. So many people. And then, so you're going to go invade Iraq.
Well, that's where the infection is. And the Iraqi people, they're not guilty of this infection.
Wait, the infection is in Iraq.
The infection
no, those people were not. There was not a single Iraqi in the attack of September 11th.
Well, I'm saying there's the base for Al Qaeda.
No, it's not. You're mistaken. No, you're mistaken. It's like you have to check it out. You have to look it up and But I'll tell you what. People. I know people in the military. And I know people who are very left wing. I know people from across the spectrum. And everybody there's so many people who think they know what's up. And I don't know what's up. And all I can tell you is the information that I have gathered from whatever sources I've gathered it. And just because somebody's in the military, sometimes, or they know somebody else knows somebody in the military, they think that they have this insight. Like if their information is not compartmentalized also, like, oh, what's his name? I have a friend in intelligence and he says that such and such, just like, so it's like, okay, that's one slice of something and that might not even be true.
But that's my perspective on everything.
So yeah, so I'm just putting that out there
that's my perspective on everything. It's like, okay, and that's why I went through an entire religious crisis 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. It was like, there's no way I even have a clue. I've been looking at this as I believe in God or I don't believe in God. Mm. There's a many-sided die, perspective on this issue. There's no black and white to this, and so that's my perspective with everything.
Yeah, when it comes to God, if I had to categorize myself, I would call myself a pantheist. You know what a pantheist is? Yeah, I would. Yeah, well, it's like everything is God. Everything, hate and love and anger and joy is God. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here. And it's all part of it, and I may interpret it as parts of it that I like and parts of it I don't, but that's just me. It is too big to try to, it's like trying to understand the universe and dark matter and dark energy, which I'm fascinated by. You ever looked up dark energy and dark matter?
Man, me and my boyfriend, we listened quite a bit to a few science podcasts. Mm-hmm. You spoke of one of our favorite guys earlier.
Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, yeah. and he's an interesting, corny, kind of wonderful guy, and
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
That was a good one.
In the universe.
Science is interesting to me because we here on the normal plane, we average everyday Joe, we don't understand the fact that there's so much happening right now that we can't even digest.
Mm-hmm.
And every now and again I come across some new scientific discovery, and it's like, I don't even know how to understand how that changes everything else that
Mm-hmm.
we've discovered. So it's just like...
You know what always blows me away is Carl Sagan's pale blue dot. I just saw the new Cosmos from Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he ends one of the episodes with Carl Sagan's Cosmos, and just the fact, like, seeing Earth as this tiny grain of sand in this vast universe, and all the things that he says in there about generals spilling blood over this tiny fraction of a piece of a dot. Think of all the rivers of blood that have been spilled, and all the generals and all the actors and all the people you loved, everybody you ever know, have lived on this dot. You know, that is just fascinating. It's like,
that's something I was thinking about today, is like just trying to reconcile myself with the insignificance of my existence, and just like how insignificant everything I'm doing and everything I'm working towards is in the grand scheme of things.
I can give you some perspective on that. The insignificance of your existence. I entertained that for like a little while in my life, and pretty soon I realized through philosophy that the fact that you exist, if the universe is that vast, as vast as we know it to be, of course, and the fact that you exist, you should feel privileged because you are totally unnecessary. You know, and you are here. You know.
Did you go through a moment like that, like where you felt insignificant when your child was born? Like, did you go through a moment where you had to like reconsider what was important when you had a child?
Yeah, but it was terrifying, but it's natural, so you know what to do naturally. Like if you just pay attention, you're a human, and humans have been having babies for millennia, you know, and but I had to reassess some things for sure, you know. But I like that. I like the feeling of insignificance. Like I derive joy from it. Because at the same time, when you talk about and deal with something like that, you exist in the same opposite side of the coin, which is highly significant. Because the same universe that is so vast that doesn't need you and doesn't recognize you because you're so insignificant also demands that you exist. Obviously, there's a huge significance there. But not through conventional ways of measuring how big something is and how small something is, you know. In other ways, you know, in the existentially, the fact that you're there. So, do you have anything to say to that?
It's like one of the constant things that I mull over. It's just like the normal questions: why am I here? What am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
What does this all mean? And what is it going to mean after I'm gone? And I think about those things all the time, and I try to discuss them with my boyfriend and things like that. And of course, a lot of times he's willing to have those discussions, but a lot of times I think he just wants me to just be. And that's one of his things. It's just like, just enjoy the breeze on your face and the taste of your coffee. And everything is so temporary, and you're going to have so little time and everything. You should just enjoy it. Just don't stress so much.
So he's not an analyzer and you are?
Oh, I'm type A. I'm 100% type A, and he's 100% type B.
What is type B? I don't even know what that is.
A type A personality's prime motivation is achievement. A type B's motivation is relaxation.
Just chill.
So they are working as hard as they can to relax, to have that moment. So they're the people that are saying, when I get to a certain point, I'm going to find that beach and that margarita, and nobody's going to call me, and I'm going to shut my phone off. And to me, I'm never going to shut my phone off. I'm never going to find that beach. Yeah. That beach is going to be 5 days, and then I'm going right back to the hustle and the bustle and the, you know, I thrive in the beehive. And the buzz, and I just love it. And
so you should live in New York.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. I hate the weather there. I hate the snow. I'm from Jersey. I mean, I know what the weather's like. I was so happy when we moved down here. I feel like Jacksonville's my town. And I think we've had this conversation before. It's a place that's like a shell of a town, and it's just ready for somebody to just start to mold it. And Shad Khan's doing that a little bit, but I think this is my town to just make make it a town before it becomes Newark or before it becomes LA. I think this is going to become an LA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think so.
I can see why you think that. You've become jaded over time.
Well, yeah, I'm jaded for sure. It's like, and for good reason.
Oh yeah.
And if you're not jaded, I don't know what you're paying attention to around here. It's like,
every great creator and every great entrepreneur is incredibly delusional.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I've gotten this far, is just by being delusional. And I've definitely seen indicators of what exactly what's made people like you jaded. I mean, just recently, the two biggest development projects that I was excited for, the guy defaulted on his loans.
Wait, I want to get back to talk. I want to ask you about something.
Sure.
So your boyfriend,
Okay.
you're talking about your boyfriend, and you said that he's type B and you're type A.
Yeah.
Okay, now I want to ask you this. Do you think he's being type B just because you're type A?
Oh,
if
no.
you became type B, would he start becoming more type A?
No, not at all.
No?
Not at all.
Try it. I want to see what happens. Tell me.
I have become more like him in the 7 months that we've been together, and I have relaxed more and slowed down more and thought things through more and things like that. But he has not become more like me in that way. He's not changed very much, and I like that. I hate when you get into a relationship and someone drastically changes, and you're like, "What? Who are you? What is going on?" And I know that you have to expect a certain amount of change, but for the most part, he's a very consistent, sure of himself type of person, and I'm not sure of myself. I do not know what's going to happen in the next day or 2 or 6 months or year. If everything's constantly changing with me, and I'm making all these decisions constantly that are putting me into a different environment. So for him, he just has his trajectory, and I think his life is going to continue on that trajectory. For me, it's just going to always be crazy. So
for now, anyway.
Yeah. So he has definitely brought me some calm and peace, but I have not added any craziness really.
Yeah.
Other than him being a spectator to my rashness.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So can I jump back to Iraq?
Go for it.
Because I went off a little bit, and I was going to tell you about what I was telling you about my discussion with this other person too. And I was telling you how if after September 11th, if the United States did not go to Iraq, the entire world was feeling a great amount of sympathy for the United States. And then gearing up the war machine, it turned into pretty quickly loathing. That sympathy for the United States and that capital, so to speak, of maneuverability, of that potential that they had built up from that tragedy, from the whole world, which you could have done something with, and what they did with it was go to war and kill a bunch of people, like a bunch of innocent people, and that totally, like, maybe even put it into the negative numbers.
Yeah.
It the tragedy was like leveled, and like maybe even the United States was even lower than the tragedy now. It was like,
I saw that happening, and I think the hard part for me to discuss this is, okay, this is 2001 to 2004. And let's put this in perspective. In 2001, I was in 5th grade. So you know what? My news sources were the local radio station and the local television stations and the hour or two
2001.
a week, that I was allowed to consume those media sources. And going into 2004, which I was probably in 6th or 7th grade. So through that time period, I'm consuming a very limited amount of media. And so the dialogue that was formed for my generation of the Iraq-Afghanistan conflict was that we went in there, we killed a lot of innocent people. Drone strikes are terrible. But for the most part, we were able to get rid of a lot of key figures in Al-Qaeda. And the big win being getting rid of Osama bin Laden eventually. And that being something that we have to credit to the Obama administration because it happened under his leadership. And so though I have to recognize that a lot of the people around the world no longer respect us because of the way that things were handled. The rhetoric that's been taught to my generation, it basically has formed the opinion in my mind that, okay, we didn't do it the best way possible, but we had to do it.
Well, yeah, you never have to do it, though. Like, anytime somebody tells you, a historian taught me that anytime somebody tells you that something was inevitable in history, it's bullshit. Like, if no matter what the topic is, it could be war, it could be a technology that is implemented, it could be like that right now, going to the cloud is inevitable, Goliath. Like, no, nothing is ever inevitable. You can totally steer things and make different things happen, you know? And if somebody ever pushes that on you, it's bullshit. Like,
about
inevitability.
3 years ago, I had a really, like, shocking revelation. I had to realize that we were not at war with Iraq. I believed this whole time that we were at war with Iraq and Afghanistan. We were at war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and at times not moving in the same directions with the military and the leadership there. But we were not at war with Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think that's a common misconception that people are able to draw from the media. And so, I mean, that's just another issue right there with the whole conflict. It's like, we didn't even really know who we were fighting against.
Yeah. I'll tell you who we were fighting. We were fighting dudes in T-shirts and flip-flops and Levi's.
But they were able to organize one of the most successful terrorist attacks against our country ever.
Who, Iraq? You're going back to that? It's not
I'm
true.
Saying,
you can't equate. That's like saying, look, pretend Canada bombs the UK, okay? And the UK comes over and they're like, we're going to bomb the United States. And you're like, hey, what the fuck? We didn't have nothing to do with that, you know? So
you're persisting that Al-Qaeda was not in Iraq at all.
Al-Qaeda was not in Iraq at all. Al-Qaeda was in, well, okay, no, I'm not an expert. I'm telling you from what I know that Iraq, I have to choose my words. Okay. Iraq had nothing to do with September 11th, and it was not affiliated with September 11th, and not even close. And those people were from an entirely different country.
Now, it's from my understanding that Al-Qaeda spans Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan.
Well, fuck, but if it's up to the government narrative, Al-Qaeda spans the whole globe except the United States, and even some parts of the United States, you know.
I mean, that potentially is true, though. I mean, they're recruiting very quickly online. They're doing a very good job of recruitment. Not as good as ISIS. I mean, ISIS, they're taking advantage of the vulnerabilities of wartime.
The whole Iraq thing, look, I'm telling you, I watched this happen. I watched it being drilled into people's heads. It was the bombing, September 11th happened, and it was all about Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden's picture was plastered everywhere on the television.
But people love to have someone to hate. I mean, Look at sports. I mean, that's a prime example. People love to say us against them, Republicans against Democrats, red against blue.
Yeah, we're
you know
good,
what I'm saying?
bad
We
type of
really
people.
like to have that double, versus
Star Wars.
Yeah, very Star Wars-esque type of thing. I mean,
yeah.
I've been watching the marathon of Star Wars. Yeah, I've been watching the Star Wars marathon, so that's why I can see so many similarities about what's happening right now.
Yeah, and it's that is one of the weirdest, most freaky, most tragic nationalist type of things, national things that has happened in my life. That is the most, like the September 11th and the Iraq War and everything that happened that led up to the Iraq War, and the lies and that many people could see. Many people could see that bullshit, But if you're in 5th grade, you're not going to see it, or if you're in 7th grade or 8th grade, And look, I played at a school not too long ago. Like, let's say, I was there 4 or 5 years ago. And I saw an old book. It was not very old. Actually, how long has Obama been president?
Since 2008.
Since 2008. What is that like now? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Like almost 8 years, right?
He's a lame duck right now.
Okay, so it was an old book because it was like 5 years ago. And I saw a book at an elementary school. And they had all these George Bush books out. And it said, Our President. And I opened the book, and I wanted to take pictures of the book. But I was there to work. I had to play for the kids. And I wanted to take pictures of this book so bad. And I only took a photograph of the cover because it was such a blatant propaganda piece. And it was like basically like a Star Wars narrative. Like, this is our president. He's the good guy. And he's like it was some proud picture of him giving a speech and whatnot. And then these are the bad guys and whatnot. And our great president, I think it was called.
The propaganda is important, and without it, if we have all these different dialogues that are happening, I mean, we potentially have the French Revolution. And that's why it's important for us to continue to believe that, okay, there's good things that happen about America. And when bad things happen, America needs to be called out. And we have to be able to get these things in line.
The problem is...
But the propaganda is important.
Well, the propaganda is... The thing is, there's good things that happen about America is known everywhere and is told everywhere all the time. What people have a problem with is that the bad parts about America are squashed and ignored. But, you know, with the birth of the internet, that's changing.
Oh, most definitely. And I like it because I'm glad that this dialogue is bubbling up about racism. And my whole generation, we believe that racism is completely dead. Because so many of us were raised in such a different lifestyle with so much more diversity.
But it's not true, you know. We're not post-racist.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
Oh, God, no. And then thinking over my life, and then I realized all these situations that I endured that I didn't even notice. And I just sharked it off. And then now I have to think back and realize, oh, that's why. And I have to like reconfigure my whole mindset about the world. But you know, and I just realized it the other day. Of course, you didn't see the post on Facebook, but whenever I was first looking for a job, I was told all the time, like, you can't work here. And whenever I was applying at places, they would tell me, you can't work here. What do you think you're doing?
Why? Before
I would even submit an application, before they knew about my work history or anything like that. And what I realized was I was too black for Middleburg and not black enough for the West Side.
Oh.
And I finally went to Orange Park, and I fit that mold of the kind of skater alternative, you know, able to deliver in Orange Park. And so I was always able to get a job in Orange Park, but I didn't fit the mold of what was expected in the West Side or what was expected in these different parts of town. And it was just because I was black and the way that I deliver. And it was just really interesting that I had to rethink my whole life. Like, okay, maybe I've dealt with racism before and I just didn't even realize it.
Wow. Yeah, I have a friend from India, and you know, he's a fan of the American culture, modern American culture, hipster, maybe even. You know, I'm oversimplifying it, but you know, for the sake of conversation, he's. I had to point out a couple of times to him, well, the reason why something was not working out for him was because of racism. You know, I told him, dude, this is why this is happening. Like, this is why you're not being invited to this thing, is because you're different. You know, like if you're gonna hang out in Riverside, at least I haven't been there, and I haven't hung out in Riverside much in the past year for sure. But if you're gonna hang out in Riverside, you either better start talking like everybody else, or similar enough like everybody else, or you're not going to be accepted. So it's not like it's a melting pot of cultures or culture coming together. It's like, hey, assimilate with us and we can let you hang out at this bar or whatever, you know. We will welcome you if you're like us, you know.
There's a really good quote I'm going to butcher about that. It's America is not the melting pot. We burn away all the differences.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I experienced that, well, here in the South anyway. You know, there's other places though. I was in Miami recently, and in one day I heard like 25 languages.
Oh man, I experienced it in New York on the subway. I was just like on the subway. I recorded a video of it, and I was just like, there's like 10, 15 different languages happening around.
It's great. It's great.
Like, what?
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's the whole experience of New York that we just have to go. I think everybody needs to go to a place like New York
I've never been there.
If you've grown up,
you should take me there.
Most definitely. We need to put that on our bucket list, dude.
Yeah.
If you've grown up in a place like like Jacksonville, Florida, you need to go to a place like New York, because it's like a place where you realize very quickly that this town is not doing anything. Like, I mean, there is more businesses in a 3-block section of New York than there probably is in the entire neighborhood of Riverside. I mean, they will have a skyscraper, 100 floors, that will have 100 businesses on each floor. Yeah. And there's people that are starting up businesses in a little tiny corner of an abandoned warehouse. And they get charged $300 a seat to be in that dusty abandoned warehouse. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. I'm listening to this podcast, Startup, from Gimlet Media. And they're paying $300 a month to be in this dusty Soho warehouse. You know, it's just unbelievable. Just because there's so many people and there's so much happening, so many people creating things, and so many things rising up out of the dust and crumbling down, and so much happening. It's like we're just moving at such a slower pace here.
Yeah, some people like that about this place.
Oh, me too. Most definitely.
The slower pace, but I don't like to say negative things about this place because it has so many negative things said about it, and it does have so many negative things about it.
I don't want to be misunderstood. I don't think that the slower pace that's happening here is something negative to be said.
No.
But I think there is something to be said about the fact that we think we're going fast.
Yeah.
And what are we comparing ourselves to?
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that people have described this place as the South, so to speak, as dopey. Like, people are kind of dopey over here, like dopey. And they're like, is it the humidity? Is it the heat? What is it? And it's like, and you don't realize that until you go to a different place and you see the energy level. For example, I can say this for sure. In Jacksonville, I think generally people, like, social interactions and stranger to stranger is awful. I think they're awful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's unwelcoming. And
which is weird because Georgia is like one of the most welcoming places that you can go, which is north of us.
Yeah.
But that Jacksonville's not very southern in that way. We're not very welcoming to strangers.
Yeah, it's a weird place here. Like, I'm somewhere. Let's say I'm standing in line at a cafe that is adjacent to a hospital, and there's a line of people there. So it's a mix of people. There's all different kinds of people there for different kinds of reasons, and I see how the person behind the counter is just being so, like, kind of dead inside. Like, they're just so like, I don't know, whatever, and then so I'll talk to somebody in line and they're just so, like, not about interacting with a person or anybody or me, no matter how I'm dressed, no matter what I'm doing, if I have a guitar on my back or if I don't, And I just see that everywhere, just everywhere,
But
I'm like, why do you have to be like this? Why do you have to be so unanimated?
I think it's like that through most of the city, but Riverside is a different place. Because everywhere I go here...
What, here?
Oh, yeah. Everywhere I go here, it's different here. There's a lot of really happy people in Riverside.
What?
But we're getting out, we're getting active, and there's so many places to go, and there's so much to do here, and we are eating healthier foods, and I think we're more connected as a neighborhood. So I think people are more friendly here in this neighborhood.
I'll tell you what. This is going to be super ironic. Some of the friendliest places I've been in this county, these local counties, is the beach.
Oh, yeah, the beach people are pretty cool, yeah.
St. Augustine and the town center.
I didn't have the same experience, but I don't know. I'm a little different than you, though.
I'm just saying the town center, like, it just freaks me out every time I go there. Like, I talk to people, you run into people, and people seem happier, and people seem healthier, and of course, like, people seem more superficial.
Yeah,
so they seem healthier.
Yeah, I mean, that's the lifestyle of that part of town, is like superficial. It's very superficial. Really.
Well, it can be, but I'm saying it's like we have to suspend. I think we have to suspend judgment of the town center in that way, because if there's a true melting pot in Jacksonville, it's the town center, because that's where people who don't know anything about Jacksonville go to. So that's where you hear their different languages.
Most definitely.
And I'm not talking about Walmart either, because you'll hear plenty of languages in Walmart.
Yeah, go to Phillips Highway. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like different languages from people with money are at the town center. So I've experienced that, and it just freaks me out every time, because I've heard so much Riverside propaganda. The town center is corporate, which it is, and the stores, I'm not interested in, like, the majority of the stores, because I'm not, And when I go there, I end up going to Barnes & Noble, because it's a bookstore. And
I worked there. It was
at
one
the
of the
town
best
center?
jobs I've ever had. Yeah, I worked in Mandarin. I've worked.
I can imagine I would have liked that job too.
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal. It's incredibly easy. It's for the most part slow paced.
Yeah.
Not a lot is expected of you, and you can just constantly connect with people and hear their stories.
Yeah.
It's
amazing. The bookstores hurt. I miss the bookstores.
The Barnes & Noble is an interesting bookstore because it's still profitable. They're still making money.
Wow, I'm surprised. Well, not the one on Regency. That was my favorite one. It closed. They had a big music section. And there's a Borders bookstore that closed here locally.
Borders is done.
I loved that store. That was my favorite bookstore.
Borders was good. I loved Borders too. And I like Chamberlain's too. They could make some better decisions, but I like Chamberlain's too. But yeah,
like Chamberlain's
Regency as an entire area, something drastic is going to have to happen, or all those stores is going to close. All that's going to be left is clothing and alcohol. It's just going to be. I'm sorry, cars and alcohol, and that's all that's going to be left is the car lots and alcohol in Regency. There's a washing down the drain effect that's happening in Regency, and something's going to have to sweep in and recover that neighborhood, or else
Didn't like a couple of dudes from another country buy it?
By the Regency Mall?
Yeah.
I don't know if the purchase was able to go through.
Oh, okay. Wow.
But I was really surprised. I drove by there yesterday, and I saw a lot of people at the mall. A lot more people than I used to see when I went to the movies there. But I really hope something can happen for that neighborhood.
You know the kind of neighborhood I grew up in?
What's that? Did you grow up here?
No, I grew up in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
I lived there until I was like 23, 24, something like that. And then I moved to Dallas, Texas, and then I moved here. And I lived in Dallas, Texas for a little while. And, but the neighborhood that I grew up in is equivalent to like if you were in Regency and you're going on Arlington Expressway and you get off before you get to Regency, and I lived on one of those streets. Like it was very non-eventful where I grew up, But so I used to explore Los Angeles a lot, though.
We're going to go to Los Angeles soon. The way that me and my boyfriend met is we have this friend, Bronson, and he lives in L.A. now. He used to live here in Jacksonville, and he moved to L.A., and he introduced us online. So
Bronson?
Yep.
Like Charles Bronson? There's an actor named Charles Bronson.
I think you might know Bronson. He used to be a server over at the Brick.
Okay. What does he look like?
Very interesting. I think he's Spanish.
I'm terrible with names.
Yeah, I think I remember that about you.
Yeah, I'm awful with names. I can't remember anybody's name. Unless it's been a while, or unless your name is Saura.
Yeah, I've got a pretty unique name. But
yeah.
I think you knew him back in the day. He's a singer as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, most of the waiters at the places where I gig when it's at a restaurant, I don't get to know their names because they don't tell me their names.
Oh, he's like a bubbly, kind of open, friendly kind of guy. Talks to everybody type of guy. He collects people.
Oh, he collects people like a mass murderer, like a serial killer?
Like a politician.
Oh, cool.
So, man, we talked about everything from Syria to Jacksonville, man.
Yeah. Is there something else that you want to talk about? Like something else that you want to drive it home for people? Educate or maybe talk about?
I think the most important thing that people can take away, like if I could tell anybody my diluted wisdom of life, is that nothing is as simple as a piece of paper. Everything is more multidimensional. And so you can't simplify an issue down to this is the way it is. I think you should try to seek out as many perspectives on something as you can, and you should seek out as many conflicting perspectives of what you think as you can, and not surround yourself with people that think exactly as you think, because that's a very comforting way to live. It's very comforting to say yeah, and have everybody nodding while you're talking, and they're agreeing with everything you're saying.
You're in an echo chamber.
It's awesome. It's a great feeling, and you feel empowered when you talk and everybody loves what you're saying. But I think you also have to have that time when people can say, no, you're full of crap, you're full of shit, and this is why, and they can give you a totally different view on things. So
yeah, that's one of the things I didn't like about a certain, I'm not gonna say their name, a certain social media website, because I'm tired of saying their name, was that I noticed that happening. This echo chamber would happen, and they're like people would delete people,
and there's
because
just
they
marriage
disagree
equality,
with them.
and I just saw that like all these people just deleting people because they don't agree with them about marriage equality. I'm like,
oh wow. It trips me out how I have friends and they would be like, I'm like, what'd you do today? Like, oh man, I got a lot done, man. I cleaned my apartment, and man, I deleted a bunch of people. I was like, people act like that's getting something done. I cleaned house, man. I cleaned out my list there. And I was like, really?
For me, like
my friend list.
For me, like if I delete someone on Facebook, that might be the only connection that I have with them. I feel sorrow when I do that. I feel a great amount of sorrow. If I have to delete that connection on Facebook, I mean, this sounds probably ridiculous to you, but if I have to delete that connection, I no longer get to hear their stories. I no longer get to see where they're at and see their food pictures. I love food pictures. I'm silly like that, but I've just severed my connection with them. Like that's probably the only way that I'll ever.
Yeah, that's sad. I don't like that. Like, there needs to be more ways to communicate with people.
Why is someone bragging about that? Like, why are you bragging about ending your relationship with someone? Like,
yeah, that is odd. I'll tell you what, I never deleted anybody when I was on there.
But I'll tell you, I love the unfollow button.
I never denied a friend request.
Really?
Never.
Really?
And I didn't friend, at first I friended people, and then, like, I got to like 50 friends, I didn't friend anybody. And yeah, I never did that. There was people who were extremely offensive on my feed and being very confrontational with me. I didn't delete them. I wouldn't delete them.
The only people I've deleted is people.
I'm like, I want to see it. I want to see what I want to see what the real reflection of my society is. You know,
you definitely get an interesting view of what society might be.
Yeah, but I realized that I wasn't getting anything because everything was curated. Everybody's self is curated on there. You know, it's like even me, you know, it's curated on there too. It's like well, as you should be, I guess. I don't know. Everybody's
you select what you post. I mean, that's as simple as that. It's not telling you everything that you're doing. It's not saying everything you're thinking. It's going to be curated. That's for sure.
I'll tell you what's funny is the things that you're into and the things that you do for money and for business and your art or your music or whatever, your family and your friends and your peer group on social media and in real life, they don't respect it until strangers respect it, which is weird.
It's
like they're like, oh, like let's say you have a marketing business, and they're like, oh, whatever, and then they see it on TV, or let's say they don't see it on TV, but they hear somebody talking about it and how great it is, and they hear somebody else talking about how great it is, and they're like, oh yeah, Saura, my sister, that's her business, you know, or whatnot. But before, they wouldn't say anything, they wouldn't repost it, they wouldn't be proud of it, they wouldn't like. You know.
It's something that I have seen people struggle with over and over and over again because they seek the approval of their friends and family first before they seek the approval of the wider world. And whenever they get this like kind of like, oh, my family's sleeping on me kind of mentality, it's like, you don't understand, it goes backwards. And I kind of had to see that before. And it's like when I started my first business, my mom.
But how much easier would it be if all of your friends and all of your family got behind you and promoted your business for you because they love you?
You know what's crazy? I mean, this is going to be super offensive to some people, and so I'm going to apologize in advance. That's why Jewish businesses do better. A Jewish business, when they start up, all the Jewish people will buy from you first. They will support you. They'll talk about you. They'll go if they're going to a non-Jewish store and they're doing something. They see somebody that needs something that you're doing. They'll talk about you and they'll share all about you. And they're super supportive of their own community. And they get behind you. And they'll give you advice, and they'll steer you in the right direction, and they teach you about how to start a business. And they're like that. They get behind everybody in their community, and that's why their businesses do better on average because they
maybe
support
we should
each
convert.
Other. No, I mean it doesn't work that way, but you know what I mean.
Why not?
I think that we should adapt the principles of different societies that work for them into our way. But it doesn't mean that we become them. We should just learn from everything.
You know, I had an idea like with the Israel-Palestine problem. I was like, maybe all the Palestinians should convert to Judaism, and then that way, if the people in Gaza they're getting bombed, then the Jewish people are bombing other Jews. What would you think that would do? Like, I mean, and that might be super offensive to both parties, but it's a solution. It's a solution that is not discussed very often.
Why don't just all black people just go become all white? Why don't you
well, no, you're talking about something different though.
Why don't you just get melanin replacement?
No, because this is a physical distinction though, and Judaism is not. Like meaning, like if you go into a classroom in Israel, you will see a student that is red-haired, curly hair, you'll see a blonde student, you'll see a black student, you'll see an Arabic looking student or a Sephardic, you'll see there's no Jewish race like that. like here there is like for example here you're black or you're white, and if you're black you're undeniably black, and if you're white you're undeniably white, and if you're black and kind of white but you look more black, you're black. So it's like, and that's where you get thrown, you get thrown into that, and so it could work. My idea could work. You don't think so?
There's definitely a Jewish race.
Oh, I mean, okay. So, fine. So which one is it? Is it the redhead or the black one or the Sephardic one or the European or the Ashkenazi?
The majority of the people that are in Jerusalem and the surrounding country are the Jewish people, which are, primarily light-skinned, black hair, curly hair, thick-browed, high cheekboned. You know
what I think is weird about Judaism, or not Judaism, but Jewishness as a race right now, in light of after like the Holocaust and World War II, is that Hitler. If you've studied any of the stuff that's been happening in Israel, and how so many people are so about their race, is that Hitler was really about his race, okay, and he was very separatist for his race, and then so Jewish people go through the Holocaust, and then ironically, you go to Israel, and there's many people who are really separatist about their race, and it's all about race. That's a weird thing. It's like a weird way for things to be work turning out.
I think, part of the problem is that whenever you have an enemy that is trying to destroy you, you tend to band together and want to work together to defeat that enemy. And even when that enemy is defeated, you might continue that camaraderie and feeling band together and like, okay, now we have a bond that's tighter than anything that you could ever know or feel if you didn't go through the same experience as a race, because you didn't experience that. So, I mean, the blacks, they have this PTSD of sorts of, okay, we are scarred as a race in a way that other people cannot understand because you did not experience this as a race. You do not know what it's like to experience this and continue from generations to experience this, and so you don't understand this bond that we share, and you don't get to have the same rhetoric about the experience because you didn't have the same experience. And it's the same way with the Jews. And so it is ironic that they have kind of been guilty of the same separatist mindset, but it has caused them to have significant advantages over almost every other race. I mean, to me, I can't think of many other races that you can just point at and say, okay, they were here and now they're there. I mean, the white people have consistently, the Europeans have almost consistently been at a certain place, but Jews have been almost consistently at war and almost consistently wanting to be destroyed. And look at where they are, and they're flourishing, and they have a very strong socio and economical society in almost every country they live in, and they're strong, And
so but there's a lot of strong people.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's not a lot of strong people that you can look at as a race and say, okay, this is what they've been
I don't
through.
look at them as a race, though. But
that's what you were talking about. You were talking about them as a race and how they band together.
Yeah. Well, no, I wasn't talking about how they band together.
Yeah, how they have that kind of like us against them kind of mentality.
No. The paying attention to race as a separatist, like, because Hitler was, like I said, Hitler was like all about the Aryan race and whatnot, and we're the best and we're the purest, and we want pure Aryan race and we're righteous, whatever. And there's all these problems happening in Israel with Nigerians and other black Jews.
We could talk about Nigeria for years, man.
No, and
we need to be paying more attention to what's happening there.
Yeah, I can't.
I mean, I understand why you specifically.
I just don't have it in me.
I understand why you specifically can't, but I'm saying that we, as a world, we need to pay more attention to what is happening in Nigeria, because they are slaughtering people by the thousands there, homosexuals in particular. There, they have in Kenya as well. They have a very high homophobic culture. And I think that we need to pay closer attention to what's happening in that situation, because people are not safe there.
But there's no oil there.
There's no oil. They have a lack of a lot of resources. It's the same thing with Haiti. These countries are having all these resources pumped into them, and they're not building up their infrastructure. And so they're not finding out, okay, what do we have that's needed by the rest of the world so we can find our place in the global economy? No, they're being thought of as, say, a culture that needs to constantly be helped. And so we're just constantly pumping resources into these cultures and not allowing them to develop their own way. And so eventually they're just going to collapse again.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Haiti. It's just like Haiti.
Yeah, I don't know much about what's happening in Nigeria. And I know that Nigeria is a very new country, and I'm sure the Western powers have had their hand in there in all different kinds of ways. So I didn't know that was happening in Nigeria. There was Darfur. Yeah. And the United States didn't help because there was no oil.
I don't know about the whole. I didn't see enough evidence of that rhetoric.
We're gonna have to end this podcast, and you're gonna end it on that note, Saura. We're gonna talk about Jews in Nigeria. We're gonna talk about what?
And oil.
And oil. Yeah. So what are we talking about now? We can't stop there.
I think I just will go back to my last point before of just keep searching for everything, keep being curious, keep looking for all the answers.
Right. You have to pay attention to as many sides of the die as you can. You have to seek out as many perspectives as possible.
Look for private blogs. I mean, Twitter's great because everything's a private blog. I mean, you're seeing all these different feeds, but look for private blogs, look for private YouTube channels. Al Jazeera America is amazing. Why do I always say Al Jazeera America? It's just Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is a global news source.
I'll tell you something about,
awesome.
like, if the government has ever been watching me, well, which they probably have, but if any government has ever been watching me, they would see my taste in, like, what I listen to, who I listen to. I like lectures. I listen to everybody. I listen to KKK guys like David Duke. I'll listen to him. I'll listen to Zionists. Staunch Zionists. I'll listen to people who are against Zionism. I'll listen to, Afrocentric people who are racist towards white people. Often, it's like just,
Oh yeah, have you been seeing the NBP, the New Black Panthers?
No, but what I'm saying is, like, I'll listen to everything in between. Noam Chomsky, everything rational, Neil deGrasse Tyson, everything. I listen to everything, right? And I noticed that everyone, well, anyway, I'll listen to anyone who has charm, because you could be crazy as fuck and have charm, And everyone, no matter how crazy they are, they have really good points about certain things, and they're crazy about other things, or I'll say they're crazy about other things. And so this is part of it, like going outside of your comfort zone and entertaining different ideas, because they're there and because somebody else spent time investigating something and thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And, none of us are going to be flawless in our logic and in our research.
Most definitely. That's why you have to take in as many sources as you can and just try to sift through it all. Yeah. That's all I have to say, man. It's been cool.
All right, good. Excellent. And thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, I traveled a whole 1.5 miles.
Yeah. All right. All right. It's good to see you.
Yeah, you too.